I love Audacity. Have you used Audacity before?
I have. I used to recommend it to people if they wanted something for free. Yeah.
A bit like I recommended Anchor to you for a podcast.
Exactly. Very, very much like that. Yeah.
Oh, cheers, boys.
Thanks for having me.
Chin chin.
Social distance,
Yeah,
drinking. In fact, I'm going to deliberately pour it into my branded mug.
I should do that too.
Why not?
I'm a big believer in keeping on brand, Mark. So I'll try and keep that for you.
I've actually I've got my angles all wrong. Looks like a.
You're showing it to me. Yeah, I know this. It's like Wayne's World with the Pepsi or the Coca-Cola.
Yeah. At the moment, it doesn't look like we're drinking beer
thing.
at all. Oh, well. Well, thanks for joining us, Pete.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, you were one of my first on the list when we came to this establishment. But so you're described as like the in-house producer, engineer.
I think
If someone books this place for like music stuff, you come with it.
pretty much. Yeah. I think they just call me. I'm just the in-house sound engineer. Yeah, it's not the title I'd give myself, but I think it's the one that I've been given.
What title would you give yourself?
Well, see, I've always described myself as a producer over
That's
anything
what I would
else.
have thought.
But yeah, I think they call me the sound engineer here, which is fine. I'll take that.
That's part of what you do, I suppose.
Very much so. Yeah.
So, like, what are your specific roles here
Here,
at Sunbeams?
I think technically, I'm meant to just deal with all of anything and everything to do with the studio, really.
Yeah.
So I'm the first port of call for anyone that wants to come and record here, essentially, and then I just handle it all pretty much. Beyond that, I do some help with like any other stuff to do with the charity that's to do with potentially to do with the studio or any music tech of any kind.
Right.
So I'm kind of helping out a bit at the moment because they're putting together some community music sessions over Zoom. So I'm making that happen for them and teaching them how to use the stuff to do it well, essentially. So anything like that, I also end up doing.
Because pre-lockdown and COVID and all that, you live, I suppose you still do, quite a unique work travel arrangement.
Yeah, I always have though. So I live 2 hours away in Saddleworth, just outside Manchester, kind of Oldham way. But the history of it is that I used to live. So I'll have to try and avoid giving you like an entire history of my life.
That's fine. That's what we're here for.
I guess so. But I used to work for Sunbeams previously, before this place existed, before this studio existed at all.
Right.
I've got a background in community music as well. So I used to live in Manchester previously, and then since I moved, I lived in London, then Cambridge, blah, 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 and then I moved back to the Northwest when I came back to this job. But when I lived in Manchester the first time, I used to work for Annie then anyway, so I used to come up the motorway.
How did that come
anyway.
about?
It's a good question. So I started getting into community music. So like anybody, after I left uni, I just took any old dead-end job that I could. Because I did my degrees in music production. So I went to music college. I did a degree in music production, and then
Where at?
At Leeds College of Music, which is now called Leeds Conservatoire, where now I also teach.
Right. We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So I studied there, and then when I've graduated, I moved to Manchester, and I just needed a job. So I just got any old job. Worked for the Royal Bank of Scotland for a little while. Absolutely hated it. It was around the 2008 crash.
Oh, the worst time to work for a bank, you mean? Yeah.
And the worst time to work for the Royal Bank of Scotland as well, when like just everything to do with that, and it was horrible. So I just jacked it in one day. I'd been there about 10 months, and I left, and I took any other random job that came up, which happened to be a support worker in a care home for adults with learning disabilities. So it's a 24-hour domiciliary care home. So I was just like a carer in the home, essentially, where they lived. And I really loved that job. It was my first experience of ever working with people with disabilities or anything like that. So I did that for a little while. And while I was doing it, I ended up really randomly with an opportunity. So someone I went to school with in Ulverston, this is how life in the music industry works, I think. Someone I went to school with, his dad runs a arts charity in South Lakes in Ulverston called Whitewood and Fleming, who they do music stuff with looked after children or kids in foster care. they had a bunch of funding to bring on the next generation of community musicians, and they just thought I might be interested in doing it. And because I was doing this support worker job and it kind of coincided, I just jumped at it and thought this sounds like it could be really good. My dad had done a bunch of community music once before, and so it was kind of all tied in a little bit. So they put me through this like training course where they would running some sessions on a week-by-week basis, and I kind of went along and learnt the ropes of doing some community music. And I saw it as a route out of like the rat race, essentially, and a way into
a
making
route out
some
of having trying to not have a normal job.
Exactly. I was already running my label and doing the stuff on the side during that period.
We'll get to that as well.
So I was already doing those things, but I wasn't making any money
Yeah,
or anything like that, and I wasn't playing at all anymore or anything like that. So I saw that as a way of like moving into an area where I'd be making money out of music, and it might free up some more time to do the other stuff. So once I'd done that, I just started applying to other places. And weirdly, even though I was living in Manchester, I was coming up to Cumbria anyway to do this thing for Whitewood and Fleming. So I just thought, oh, do you know what? I know someone had told me about Sunbeams. I just sent Annie a speculative letter saying, do this, I'm doing this training, I really fancy doing it. And coincidentally, she wanted someone at the time, and it just worked out. So I started working for Annie, and then it just kind of.
So what exactly were you doing when you first started with it?
I was doing. I started off doing their monthly Saturday music sessions in Kendal, where they have a team of musicians who deliver kind of community music for young people with learning disabilities. And that was the first time I'd done music with people with learning disabilities, but I was already working in a care role with people with learning disabilities, so I was kind of connected.
Right.
Anyway.
So how were you travelling then?
I was just driving up once a month in a car.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
There's a reason I ask that. I'll get to it.
Okay, I know where you're going. Yeah. So I was just driving up, and it was a couple of hours on a Saturday. And then another couple of other jobs came up, which were like bi-weekly. So every couple of weeks I'd come up on a Wednesday and I'd do something in Barrow. And then once a month I'd come to Kendal. And that's all I was really doing until I left and moved to London, and then I kind of stopped doing it all.
So why did you move to London?
I moved to London for the reasons that people make any big moves like that for a girl. Essentially.
Wow.
I was in a long distance relationship, and it hit that moment, and then
that isn't actually what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say like
I like to chase the dream,
the big smoke, the big opportunities.
I was never really into any of that. I never really
you
believed
need to be
in
London.
that
It's
thing.
the hub.
Yeah, I never kind of subscribed to that as a thing, but
depends what you're doing, really.
Yeah, exactly. The thing is, there's a theme in my life, which is that I grow bored quite quickly, and I make quite rash decisions. So I basically dropped all of the work I was doing and built up in the Northwest and moved to London with pretty much nothing.
What was your plan when you got to London then?
So I got an internship with a paid postgrad in Oxford. Nice. Which was the only work I had at the time. So I moved in. Now I think saying it out loud, it all sounds quite stupid.
Not really.
So I moved to London, but I was travelling once a week up to Oxford from there to do this internship at a charity called Soundabout, who I still do some work for now. And they would put together a postgraduate course, a postgrad in music and special educational needs in something, it's really boring, I won't go into it, in something specific called the Sounds of Intent framework for assessing the musicality of people with learning disabilities, right? Yep. Very, very niche. So they were doing this, it was the first time they'd ever run it, and I was chosen one of the interns to do this course that had an intake of like 10 people, but and then the two of us were doing sessions for them as well, and kind of learning to become part of their team. But it was an internship out of London, paid basically nothing, a bit, and I was trying to live in London with that. And a friend of mine gave me a guitar teaching job in a primary school. Never taught guitar in my life. I'm self-taught. I'm a self-taught guitarist. Never had guitar lessons, so I started teaching guitar in a primary school.
I've just got an image of you like going somewhere for like a guitar lesson and then going next door to teach guitar.
Do you know, it basically was. I was like 2 lessons ahead of the kids I was teaching.
You got this like 12-year-old going, no, this way.
Pretty much. As soon as, honestly, I wasn't a very good guitar teacher, but then I taught guitar for another 5 years. Like anything to make ends meet at that stage.
The quicker you get the basics, you can teach.
It was definitely like anything to make ends meet. Exactly. I was doing that. And then I ended up doing a bunch of things just happened by accident. I did some other community music work while I was there.
Whichever way you look at it.
Or fate, if that's the way you look at it.
If you're throwing yourself into these certain direction, opportunities will will come?
I think I would say I've been quite lucky, but I think if I really think hard about it and I'm honest with myself, but it's hard to be this level of honest, isn't
Things
it?
happen for a reason.
I think there's an element of that, but I also think I'm just a bit of a yes man. Like I don't mind trying something. I don't mind someone saying, "Could you have a go at that?" And even if I've got absolutely zero idea what I'm doing, I'll say yes.
I'll have a go.
And then I'll try and learn how to do it. And I've kind of built a career on that.
Have you seen the film The Yes Man?
Yeah, I've read the book as well.
Would
If
you
you've
like
not
to
read the
learn
book.
Spanish? Yes. Would you like to play guitar? Yes. Would you?
It's basically that. It's the Danny Wallace book. I read it before I saw the film, and the way he does it. I don't know if you've read the book.
No.
But so the film's done as a fictional thing, isn't it? But Danny Wallace, who wrote the book, actually did it. And that's what it's based on. He decided going forward, I'm just going to say yes to everything that comes up, and that's going to be like my life motto for a bit. And then he wrote a book about what situations that threw him into.
It seems good most of the time. Well, I'm sure occasionally you're going to say yes to something.
Yeah,
like,
pretty much. Yeah, I've definitely found myself in situations where I don't know what I'm doing.
Would you like a credit card? Yes.
Well, that's a whole other story as well, to be fair.
But like before all this and COVID hit us, what was like a typical week like? Before we get to that.
Yeah.
So then you came back here and...
So then I was moving back to the Northwest anyway. So this is another one of those opportunities. I was moving back to the Northwest, staged move back to Cumbria. I'm from Cumbria originally. I always wanted to move back to the Lake District.
Whereabouts in Cumbria?
I'm from Ulverston.
Oh, you're from there, right?
Grew up in the South Lakes. Always was my plan to kind of come back to the South Lakes anyway. But I was living in Cambridge at the time then. And then, so I was coming back to the Northwest, and I thought, do you know what? Just on a whim, I'm just going to contact Annie and say, I'm coming back to the Northwest. I'd love to do some work for you again.
When was this?
When? 2018?
All right, so yeah.
Fairly
just in time for when it happened to be just opening this place.
Well, that's what I didn't know, but was happening anyway.
Wow.
So I emailed saying, imagining that I was just going to come back and try and do some of the community music work that I used to do. And they replied saying, we'd love you to come and work for us again. And coincidentally, we're just about to open a studio and we're interviewing for it in like 2 weeks. It was literally like that. Send me a CV and we'll include you on the interview list. So then 2 weeks later, I came up and did an interview and got the job to be the engineer.
Did you know anyone else who they interviewed?
I knew what went for it. I don't know who went for it. So maybe, and I just don't know about it. But
just fate.
Yeah. So just one of those things. So it just worked out perfectly. Yeah. Because I had no plan. It was my now wife that wanted to move to the Manchester area on the way back to move into Cumbria, essentially. So I'd agreed to it, and I had quite a stable work life in the south. So I was a bit reticent about it at first, even though I wanted to do it in the long run. I wasn't quite ready to. So I again just basically jacked in all of the work that I had.
But your wife isn't the one you moved to London for.
No, it's not the same person.
It didn't work out.
No, that didn't work out. I wasn't in London very long.
Right. Okay.
I was there a year, and then that all went tits up. So that's how I ended up in Cambridge. So yeah, so I jacked in everything to make that move, and then this just kind of came along, and it all started to fall into place.
Long distance relationship. So then, did you end up living together?
Yeah, so I moved to London, and we lived together.
See, you don't really know someone until you live with them.
Well, I think we'd hit that point where it was like, is this a thing or isn't it a thing? How do we know? And there was only one way to find out.
That's a big commitment. You just sacked everything off and moved to London. That's a big...
And then struggled quite a lot for a year financially and emotionally.
Sort of came back up north with your tail between your legs.
Well, I moved to Cambridge after that. Ended a little bit of time there, but yeah, pretty much. So yeah.
But because this place opened in 15.
Yeah, but they didn't have a plan for the studio yet at that stage, as far as I'm aware. So it's not like someone else did this job before me.
No, but did it have all the mixing desks?
Everything was built at that time. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's just it was kind of a staged opening, I think, because they kind of got their ducks in a row on how it was all going to work.
So this is one of my missions to get people to know about this place because it's got so much to offer. But
it's such a great place, isn't it? Yeah, it's
people since I put the first episode up, people have come look this place up, look me up, look the show up, and gone, I didn't know this place existed.
I know.
I've driven past there lots of times. I didn't even know it.
Everyone
I noticed the building, but I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of people said I didn't even know this building was there because it's pretty hidden. It's right by the A66 or whichever road it is, but you can't see it from there. It's really hidden. You can't even hear it.
Quite I like that.
Yeah,
but it's just like now we're sort of like saying, right, we need to get people in.
Yeah,
but at the same time,
well, that's it. And so I started the job, and then I was like about a year in. So, but it takes quite a while to establish how I'm doing things and loads of things, and then obviously COVID came along, and so we've been closed. So I feel like I'm just back, and I feel like I'm kind of starting again.
It's
in
like a
weird
year later the next day.
Pretty much. I'm like finishing projects now that I'd started, start of this year, or even I'm just doing some mixing at the moment on a guy who recorded with me in December 2019. So
18.
No, 19, because we're in 20 now.
Yeah.
But it feels like it's almost there again. It feels really weird, like I've just lost 10 months but yeah, it just feels.
How did you get right? So your travel arrangements?
My
you
travel
travel in a super van.
So I drive up here in a self-converted camper.
I've seen it. It's
and
ace.
then I stay here while I'm here in the van, in the car park.
How's the winter?
It's all right because I've got a wood burner.
In the van?
In the van, yeah.
Well, I've never heard that before. That's a new one.
So I've done many a minus degrees night. I just get the fire going. I've got a routine now.
Okay.
So I just get the fire going before bed, and then I'll leave it going in the van for a bit, and I'll stay in here. And then I put a hot water bottle in the bed, like warm in the bed, ready. And then once I'm done in the building, I just go and get in, and then it stays
Nice
warm
and
through
warm.
the night. Yeah. The worst part is in the morning, when you wake up and you can see your breath, and then like getting out. I'm always warm in the bed, but getting out is the hard
harsh,
bit.
cold mornings.
On some morning, because sometimes it's frozen on the inside of the van, on the windows.
Inside, yeah. Not the
Because obviously
outside.
I've been breathing all night, so there's condensation. They're the ones where like you've really got to just grin and bear it and jump out and
Come in here.
and come in here. But it's it gets you kick started for the day.
So when did you get the van? How long have you been doing that?
Before it wasn't like for this. I already had it.
Yeah, you already had it. Yeah.
But only just. I think I've been dreaming about converting a van for a long time. I've got no skills.
Did you do it all yourself?
Did it all myself. Yeah, I've got
Wow.
absolutely zero skill set. But I've been dreaming about it a long time, and then I joined a Facebook group for people who self-convert vans. And
There's
then
always a Facebook
once
group.
you've done that, well, it's got like 60,000 people in or something. It's like it's a pretty big.
Oh, but then
thing.
you don't start comparing yourself to other people, though. Surely.
Well, this was the tipping point, though. That was the tipping point of like seeing people posting every day of doing it, and I just at that stage I was like, I just got to do it. I've got.
I think the other way it could have been Peter joins the group. Peter leaves the group.
Yeah, it could very much have been that. Yeah. Well, and then as I do with everything in life, I just bought a van, not knowing what I was
And said
doing,
yes.
and said yes. Yeah, exactly.
I can do this.
Bought a van and spent
be
hours
fair,
on
you have.
YouTube. Yeah, well there you
The
go.
biggest compliment I can play is the last time, well, before lockdown, when you showed me it briefly.
Yeah.
I didn't go, oh, he's made this himself. I didn't say that. So.
True. You're probably just being kind though, because you wanted to be here.
It's really good. But you didn't no help at all.
No, I put the windows in and everything. Like, there's something strangely scary and satisfying about taking a jigsaw and cutting a massive hole in the side of a van. Just watched a load of videos, and obviously I did loads of stuff wrong, and if I did it again, I'd do it better and stuff. But it's only me that's got to live with it. So
That's cool. Well, like you were on your way up today from down the Midlands, and then you just come up here, and then it's a couple of hours.
it's about 2 hours on a good day, just under, but typically
There was a big accident.
there's a big accident. So so it took me about 3 hours and 45
no.
minutes today. But that's not usual. Normally, an hour and 45, or if it's like rush hour time, a couple of hours.
Yeah. So what I was going to say was before lockdown, which
Mhm.
was when I just met you.
Mm-hmm.
I met you once, and then we went to lockdown.
Yeah, I know.
What was a typical week like?
So I do 3 days here. So I'd be up here a couple of nights, but that could be any day of the week, essentially. So there's no specifics. I try and keep myself available as much as possible for whenever people want to book into the studio. So I don't work set days. So I do 3 days up here at some point, and then I lecture at, we've just had a name change, so I'll keep getting it wrong, Leeds Conservatoire, formerly Leeds College of Music.
Okay.
I lecture there 2 days a week.
Leeds College of Music did what it says on the tin a lot better.
Yeah, the only reason it changed is because they've just started doing an acting course and some performing arts stuff as well, so they couldn't have the name Leeds College of Music if they weren't only a music college anymore, which they're not. So they had to...
Leeds College of Music and Performing Arts.
That was one, stuff like that were the options, but they went with Leeds
It's probably a bit
Conservatoire. Let's no judgment.
So you
thrown,
teach what? Sorry, are you
I lecture in community music.
Ah, okay, right.
I run the community music module, which is a module that anybody on any of the pathways can take. So you could be studying, the main pathways are popular music production, which is what I did, music business, pop, jazz, and then a straight classical. I think that's all of them.
Right.
And film music. You could take any of those as your full degree, but one of the optional modules is community music, and anyone on any pathway could take community music if they wanted to.
Okay. So did you need qualifications to be able to teach it?
It's either qualifications or relevant industry experience. It's a music college. It's a really good college, and I'm not just saying that
good
because I went. But yeah, their whole thing. It was on my bucket list. Weirdly, when I left college, when I studied there, on my bucket list was I really want to come back here and teach one day. So ever since I left, I've got their job vacancies email, thinking one day I'll be
something
in the right
will come
place
up and I'll be available.
Yeah, and it'll all work out.
We were talking about this with Ryan Hutchinson last time about it's nice to see somewhere that's not just you haven't got a degree. No, have you got a degree? No.
Yeah, they're not like that at all. They're really good. And it's very.
Opens up a lot more of opportunity to different people.
I would say everyone that lectures there is an industry professional in what they do, and they all lecture as a side project to doing the job that they lecture in as well.
That's
for definite.
really cool that you can do that. Yeah.
And I felt that when I studied there, and that was one of the things that made me also really want to do it. Like my electronic music lecturer was DJ John De Silva of the Hacienda days. He was like the house DJ when it was when the Hacienda opened, and he was my electronic music lecturer. And I looked at people like that, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to come back here as a lecturer, because I'd feel like I'd hit a point in my career in whatever field that is that I'm respected enough to be a lecturer here and be doing the job. It's not like
and you'd learned enough that you felt you could.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teach it to
It's
other
not
people.
just an academic role. It's very much an industry role.
Yeah, which is it's a good place to be, not just like the usual typical.
Yeah, definitely.
It's something, and it's also something you're interested in, which is half the battle. Like you say about getting easily bored or something. Which is why it's more important to be doing something that you really enjoy. Yeah,
well, that's it. And now I've always got some kind of project on the go that's a bit different, I suppose. So I think they technically call it a portfolio career. That's what I was always told it was. Okay. So since I've managed to make that my sustainable living, that what those things are that make up the portfolio are quite often changing. But now set is here and that lecturing job, and then I have lots of other things that come in and out of
so at what point did you decide to start a record label as well?
So that comes quite early in it all. So when I was studying, we had like music industry modules and stuff when I was doing my production degree. I just got really into learning about how the labels ran and stuff, and I've always had. My attitude to music was always that I wanted it to be a sustainable career. I was never like, apart from when I was a teenager, I was never really like, I'm going to pursue like the one big thing, like really making it in a band or really, like the all or nothing type things. I was always in it for, I'm going to make my living out of it. Because I know my whole family work in the music industry. So, I knew that being like a career musician was like a possible thing to do, and not because people are always like, "Oh, to work with famous people, will I know your name?" It's like there's thousands of people that are making a living out of this that aren't.
Because that's the most important part of it.
Exactly, that's it. So I was always aiming for like, what could I do to make myself have a sustainable career
and be happy doing it.
Exactly. So the label was really a vehicle early on, because I didn't have funding to open my own studio when I first started or anything along those lines. So the label was like a vehicle for me to start working with people I thought would be successful.
What was the idea behind it?
The idea was that I could make them records without being paid for it myself, but also like not upfront, them not paying me as a producer, which gave me the opportunity to put together like a portfolio of my work.
But what scope did you have to do that at the time?
Not very much.
Another yes situation.
The will, thinking it might be possible. Those things essentially.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that was about it. I mean, it kind of started because my dad had this idea that So I work almost solely in British folk music, pretty niche market. We should get that out there straight away. And I come from a family of folk musicians, and And my dad had this idea while I was studying to... I don't even know where to start with half of this stuff. So my dad's a Morris dancer, and as part of that, he knew a guy who was, it must have been in his 80s by this point, who sang Cumbrian dialect songs, which is a bit of a misnomer because Cumbrian dialect isn't really a thing because we're a new county. So really it was a mixture of Westmoreland and Cumberland dialect songs, essentially. And probably one of the only people left alive at the time singing Cumbrian dialect songs in dialect as a Cumbrian, as you'd expect to hear them, unaccompanied. And my dad had this idea that was a heritage thing that should be preserved. And I was doing my degree and I had some equipment, and he said, basically, why don't you record Bruce, the guy's name, singing these songs? So we did. And we set about doing that in Bruce's garage, and we kind of started doing it. And then my dad started like scoring some of them so he could make a book to go with it so other people could learn them, etc. And then we just kind of went, well, what would be the vehicle for releasing this? At a time when I think...
When was this?
2009, 2008,
Okay.
2009. So I would say self-releasing wasn't really big, but it was just
Doable.
starting to be a thing that people were thinking about. So I kind of was already learning at uni the things you need to put in place to register yourself as a label, what kind of codes you needed, how to set yourself up with MCPS, PPL, all of those kinds of things. So I just started putting that into practice, essentially, to be able to do that. And once I'd done that, and we'd had that out there, I was like, well, I'm a label now. So this would also be a good way for me to approach other people who might not have the wherewithal yet to self-release, might not have the funds themselves to record a really decent record.
Did you have the facilities to record people then?
I just did I had equipment, but not a space. So I had mics.
So could you go to them?
I'd go to them, or they'd
Right.
come to me, or I'd hire a studio, or
Okay.
depending on, or I'd hire some mics in and that kind of thing, and we'd kind of build it together. So I put money into it at that stage, but we're not talking like tens of thousands of pounds that you would if you were, doing it something a bit more commercial. We're talking hundreds to, a couple of thousand at the end of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, you've self-released stuff, haven't you? You've kind of done it.
Yeah.
You kind of. So it's not that much money at those early stages. So I put in that, but only from with a little bit of help from my dad, but not tons, and just on whatever wages I was earning at the time. And then I made that back through sales. So I just struck a deal with whoever it was that we'd split the sales so that I could make back what I'd put into it, essentially.
So you would split sales right from day one? You wouldn't get your costs back first and then split a profit after that? Or is that an option?
Well, I made a lot of mistakes. Is the honest
Haven't we all?
is the honest answer. I had really great visions of being a label for the artists, so I split from day one before I'd made money back. But
Right.
retrospectively, then I never made my money back on some of them.
Yeah,
So
especially in the early days, I would imagine.
Exactly. So
Yeah,
as
yeah.
things have grown, things have changed a little. Like, it's not the same model that I use now, but it's how I mean, I lost some money. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I lost a few £1,000s, but not like mega money.
The main cost for us was the actual recording. 'Cause
Yeah.
Obviously, we went to a professional studio and just...
Yeah, so that was the bit that I
cost a
tried
bit
to
of
give
money.
people. That's the bit that I gave them.
Yeah.
Was really what I was interested in was being able to put records out there that were good, that then people would hear that I produced. Essentially, that's what I was doing it for originally, and it did work. Like, eventually, what my hope was, eventually, then some people would come to me.
Well, once you've done a few releases, you get word
Exactly.
of mouth and...
Exactly, and
you
it did,
put-
and
you
it
can
did
put
work.
stuff online to say this is what we've done.
Exactly, and it did start to work. So more people come to me now that I don't necessarily release on the label just to hire me as a producer.
So
And now
you become
obviously
a bit
we've got
more
this
well
place.
known in the folk
Exactly,
scene.
exactly. And then it had other effects, like it started to get me like live work and stuff as well, live engineering work.
Yeah,
and
because
that kind of thing.
you go with a few different bands to places. I've noticed.
Yeah, I work with two or three acts like permanently, and then do various other.
Before I forget, what
things.
is the name of your record label?
Oh, it's Haystack Records.
Yeah, and how did you come up with the name?
I don't know, actually. It just kind of arrived, I think. I was looking for something that was obviously in keeping with the genre. So I was looking for something that sounded a bit folky.
Like a needle in a haystack.
And then that was the other thing. That was the clincher, was the idea of like I was out there looking for young artists that weren't a big thing yet. So I just felt like I was looking for a needle in a haystack. That was the kind of...
It works.
That's where it came from, essentially. And then that gave a really nice little... Once I started talking to logo designers, and they kind of did the... I don't know if you've seen the logo, but it's like an on-end hay bale, like a vinyl record, but stitched. So like it's meant to be like needle stitch. There's loads of little things that came into it. I just thought, oh, this is nice. I like it.
Because not long after I came here and had the meeting with everyone here, and then we agreed we were going to do it, we were going to announce it, and then 3 days later we went to lockdown. So but then you were already booked to go to Switzerland.
Yeah, that's right.
With who's it with?
Ross Cooper and Tom Oakes.
That was it. I remember watching it, and I was thinking, because we went to lockdown. Was it lockdown while you were away? Or was it just before that?
It was Switzerland and Europe were all just tipping over into lockdown while we were there, and then I got back and we went in about 5 days later.
Right. Yeah, because I remember you were out there and gigs were getting cancelled.
We had all our gigs cancelled. We went there and we did one gig, the very first gig, and then they just started to drop like while we were there.
They were just getting cancelled, weren't they?
Yeah, while we were there. It was
so then I remember you did a live feed from like a bar, restaurant.
Yeah,
type place.
It was from the woman that organises the tour that we do over there, because we've been once before. She also puts on a gig in like a little... It's like the cellar of a castle. It's quite cool. In this little village in Switzerland. So we'd done a gig there, and then they let us use it again to do this little gig.
So I thought, but then you went live on Facebook and people could tip. And I tipped.
Oh well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Because obviously you lost money because you're not going to do your gig.
That was the aim. Yeah.
So did it manage to get a decent amount of money back?
Did all right. We didn't make as much money as we'd lost, but
it all helps.
But I mean, we didn't. Not in terms of we didn't go home in the red. We just didn't go home making as much money as we should have done from doing
I just thought it was really cool. I was watching it. I was going, this is really cool. The sound was good for a start.
Thank you very much.
But I just thought people were like, you could see people were like donating, coming across the bottom of people.
That was another one of those like right place, right time things, because that led on to absolutely tons of other work that I've done during lockdown that I would never have done otherwise if I hadn't done this one. We were just there right at the beginning and being bloody minded about getting a stream out to the rest of the world. It took us a day to work out how to do it. But then obviously people saw it, and we were probably one of the first to put out like a tip jar live stream. This is what's going to... Little did we know then that that's going to be what the music industry was for like the next 7...
time.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for the next few years,
probably. But then you could watch, because it was recorded, it went out live, but you could rewatch it now. So the views just kept going up and up.
And then we kept making money on the little ticket. We didn't charge a lot for it. It was like we threw it out there as buy as a pint. Was the idea? It was like £3 a ticket or something. Yeah. But a lot of people put in more because it was a Bandcamp thing, so you could pay more if you wanted to. So, people did, some others didn't, and some people watched and didn't pay, and that was all totally fine. We were just experimenting, really.
So then you got home, and then days later we went to lockdown.
Yeah.
So then what did you do?
Then I got...
I've got nothing to say yes to now.
Well, that was it. I got a lot of phone calls of this bit of work's cancelled, that bit of work's cancelled, etc., etc. The studio's closing, and I was getting a bit edgy about it. But then my friend Kat, who runs a festival in Oxford called Folk Weekend Oxford, I used to do the sound for that festival. I haven't for a few years, but previous years I'd been her kind of technician. Kat and I have done loads of other work together since. And her festival is an April festival, so they were thrown under a bus with all of this. But she's another one of those. I think the reason we've done so much work together is she's also very bloody minded, and she'd basically decided. Well, I think what happened was she'd been looking at, was it going to be possible to take the festival online, and then because everyone could see lockdown was coming. And then she saw our live stream from Switzerland and essentially went, yes, it is possible to take it online.
Yeah.
So then she gave me a call and went, I'm going to move the entire festival online. It's 50 plus events across a weekend. Do you think we can do it? So...
Yeah, what did he say? Yes.
I went, well, we can give
Technically, you're asking the wrong guy, but yes.
we can give it a try. So, yeah, we went to do that, which we did. And it worked, and it was a bit scary, and some of it was better than other bits, but as a whole, it worked, and they sold tickets, and people paid for it, and we were doing it all through Zoom then, as opposed to Facebook. She wanted to implement a paywall, so it was... I think her whole ethos was originally was to not devalue anything. That we were putting a lot of effort into the infrastructure of that festival,
which
sound
is
and
difficult
everything.
considering the circumstances, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So they just kept it exactly the same, not knowing what would happen, but people bought tickets and
How did they keep it the same? In what way?
in the same way as that they had. So the festival runs on like a couple of different tiers of event anyway. So you'd have like ticketed events in a theatre, and then you'd have free events on a stage in the city or something along those lines. So what they did with more local artists, say, and then the ticketed ones would be like national or international known artists. So they kept the ticketed events, which would be on Zoom, which you could only access with a Zoom link, which you only got if you bought a ticket.
Right. Makes sense.
And then they social media streamed what would have been the local stuff on like the outdoor stages type thing, so anyone could access it.
So little did we know that's the way. I mean, every festival's virtual now, isn't it?
Exactly. So we did all of that, and people bought into it, and it made money, and we paid all the artists properly. So Kat said, let's do another one. To me, essentially, let's do a May Day event, because May Day is a big thing on the folk scene. So we did a May Day event, and same thing, loads of people bought tickets. It was really successful. We paid the artist, and like, I'm not talking nothing, like thousands. It went well. So we thought, well, let's do a few more, and then before we know it, we were doing 2 gigs a week.
There you go. For as long as there is no venues to go to, people are going to happily do that because there's no alternative.
Exactly. So we've moved away from the Folk Weekend Oxford thing, because they're a not-for-profit, and they were, and we were making money from it as a business as well as paying the artists. So we've set up as Live to Your Living Room.
This
as
is
our
what
own
I was going to
thing.
talk about. I was wondering if that was the same thing. Live to Your Living Room, which you just launched.
So that's how that's
recently.
come out. So we've been developing that so that it can be. What we were doing originally was we were kind of relying on the goodwill of the artists to have some gear and me telling them how to set it up, and I would describe stuff.
Yeah.
That's what we were doing. But what we've been gradually doing is investing in equipment ourselves, and I've been formulating, I should say, a way in which I can engineer the gigs as I would do in a venue, but from my house while the artist is still in their house.
Yeah.
So I still mix. So now we're at a
you
point.
just need the feeds to come in and be good quality.
Yeah. So I still mix the gigs like I would do, and so
On the fly.
Right. And it's all totally live. There's no recording afterwards. You pay a ticket, you watch it, and if you miss it, you miss it. It's like as live can be.
That's good.
We do it on Zoom so that the artists can see an audience. People put their cameras on; they can see lots of little boxes of an audience. Yeah. They unmute themselves and applaud after numbers. Like it's real time. We incorporate a Q&A element so people can ask questions. So it's a bit more like a meet the artist type thing as well. It's quite intimate. And I send them a bunch of gear to do it. So I've got 2 flight cases of equipment flying around the country at any one time at the moment to the gigs.
That's a good idea. So that's a bit like a touring band where they have
pretty much
on the bigger level where they have a separate setup going ahead of them to the next show.
Very
so
much,
when they finish, when they get there, that one's done. Ready to go.
I'm Parcel Force's biggest complainer at the moment, but customer. I'm just.
I saw you posted something. About
it's just my life in Parcel Force.
I didn't realise. Was that about that?
Yeah.
See, I didn't realise.
Because the turnaround. Well, this is why we've got 2 sets of gear now. We had 1 originally. So this was the setup relied on 2 gigs a week, a Wednesday and a Saturday, to give enough time for Parcel Force to collect the parcel on a Thursday, deliver it on a Friday, gig on a Saturday, collect on Monday, deliver on a Tuesday, gig on a Wednesday. That was the setup.
Doesn't give you much leeway, does it?
And this stuff started to go wrong eventually. Nothing that's been unfixable yet, but it has. One did mean me driving around the country to collect something from somewhere and take it to the next place myself. So we've got 2 sets of gear going around now. So yeah, we're doing that. And
so those gigs, once they've happened, no one can see. They're not like available for.
Nope.
But you could record them.
Yeah, but the reason we didn't originally is because we thought we were going to run into GDPR issues with people with cameras on and their names. We'd have to get permission to be able to broadcast that.
Right.
But then there is ways of not doing it, but we're still stuck to not doing it because we're trying to keep the idea that if you bought a ticket to a gig, you'd go to the gig and it's very much a live experience. And we want it to be a live experience for the audience and for the artist.
Yeah.
As much as it...
As spontaneous as a
exactly,
gig would be.
Exactly. We don't want it so that an artist is playing to 3 people and then 85 watch it whenever they want to.
Well, you find out most people are watching it when you won't even...
Well, we don't know that, but just...
No, but that does happen.
Could be.
That does happen
exactly.
sometimes.
Exactly.
You find out more people have watched it afterwards than when it actually
exactly.
happened.
And the whole... We're trying to create as much of a live experience as it is possible to create at the moment.
The reason I asked was because what you could do, if you could rebroadcast it is have you like a Patreon thing.
Yeah.
So if people are paying a monthly subscription and they couldn't see it, or
well, we are thinking about looking at potential subscription models and that kind of thing as we develop.
that's very popular these days.
Yeah. We just haven't quite hit on how it's going to work yet, and because now we're in kind of the infancy of this.
Yeah,
as
you just
its
need to
own thing.
bash the gigs out first and just
That's it, exactly. Which is what we're
get
doing.
that finely tuned as possible, so you know it works.
But I think there's longevity in it, because we've been chatting to what some of the most interesting stuff that's come out of it is having conversations with audience members and artists alike about just little things. So a lot of people are getting in touch saying, thank you so much for doing this. One, it's really great to have this at a time when there's no live music. But secondly, the most surprising thing was getting loads of people saying, I can't access live gigs normally. I've got this disability, that anxiety problem, young kids, I look after my mum, whatever. I live in the States and most of the British UK folk artists only tour in the UK. Any number of reasons. We've got people watching from all over the world getting in touch saying, I would never normally get to this gig, so this is amazing. So we're starting to say, when the world returns to normal, whatever that is, whenever that is, the music industry is screwed, and it's going to be, well, on the grapevine, we're looking at 2022 before.
People going back to venues is probably going to be the last things that they will allow.
Exactly. And by which point, there's not going to be any venues and there's going to be no artists and no infrastructure.
But they might have to adapt to this work in this kind of way.
Yeah. So even when that happens, even when tours are happening as normal, we're starting to talk to artists about the idea of scheduling in an online show as well as the dates that they're doing around the country. So particularly because we could stick them in a dead date where then they're playing Exeter on Tuesday and Glasgow on Thursday, and so on Wednesday we're thinking, well, why don't you do half your drive and stop somewhere halfway up, and we'll do you an online show at that stage, and that'll be available for people who can't access your gigs normally, or
I think a lot of people will be coming to this revelation as well. But
Mm-hmm.
by the time we do get back to some sort of normality, and when they let people in, people will have established this way of doing gigs anyway.
Yeah.
So they probably won't want it to stop.
So I think there'll be a way. I think they'll be able to sit side by side. I think there's a long term in it. And me and Kat have basically just said, if there isn't, we might just do this for a year and it'll be fun. And we
won't lose any money, hopefully.
No, and we're plowing tons of money back into the music industry, and we're the only real good news story in that sense that's going around. But I don't know what the latest figures are, but we must be about £60,000, 60 to £70,000 into the industry now. That's paying artists, sound technicians. I don't do all the gigs anymore. I've got someone else who does some as well. Yep. Just all the infrastructure behind the arts. We're trying to make sure we pay the band's agents. We're trying to make sure we pay every step of it out of everything we do.
That would normally be paid.
Exactly, just to try and feed some money into the industry as much as we can.
That's really cool.
That's the aim.
So when did we rebrand?
Well, we're just in the middle. Yeah, we're just in the middle of it now.
I like the branding of it. I thought.
Well, thank you very much.
I think it works.
We're not live with the new website yet, but it's so technically from the beginning of September, all gigs were live to your living room gigs from that point onwards.
Right. Yeah.
But we're just in the middle of the rebrand, and the website will go live probably this week sometime.
But even the name of it, Live to Your Living Room, works.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
We're kind of all going to be in this situation for a long time, so people are going to be getting more and more accustomed to doing this.
And I think because we're going for something different to, like, I don't know if you saw like the Laura Marling gig from, I think it was the Union Chapel in London. She did a few people have done gigs from venues, multi-camera angled, quite nice looking things. Yeah. They have done those, but we're trying to go for a more intimate, almost always direct from the artist's living room.
Well, that works with folk music.
Yeah,
that intimate side of it works
definitely.
Perfectly.
I don't know. We are talking about
you don't need
other
as much
genres.
equipment to capture the acoustic folk stuff.
And including like the Q&A element to it. It's really nice. People get to talk to the artist and ask something.
Yeah, it's a lot more low key, kind of
very much.
Like,
that's what we're going for. We're going for a very intimate, snug, comfy kind of thing.
Yeah, I did think that about why don't the bigger venues put on. You could get a band in on their own, just playing, because they've already got, most venues have got like a mixing desk.
Yeah,
sound
I think some people
are,
some venues are, but I don't know
how. Pay
how
for a ticket online, watch it online.
Exactly, I don't know why that more aren't doing it. Or...
I mean, I know they're waiting for like financial help, but in the meantime, they're doing
I
something.
I wonder if some of it's to do. I don't know this for a fact, so I might be wrong. I should caveat with that. But I wonder if some of it's to do with it wouldn't be enough to make the infrastructure of the venue financially viable, so it's better for them while it existed. I know it's going to have staff furloughed than it is to have them in making 1 or 2 gigs that don't make enough money to make the venue turnover work.
But it seems like they should try it.
Something's going to have to give.
I guess maybe you couldn't have like 5 bands on one in a row in the same venue. Maybe that wouldn't work. But if you book, I mean, we've never been in this situation before. So if you book like a really popular band, it was like the venue that they know they normally get a lot of people showing up to, and then you put it online, you could just
something's going to have to give in it all.
Something.
Something's going to have to give in it all.
They might underestimate how many people are like really gagging for a live gig that they would just pay for that and watch it online.
Maybe, yeah. And I think it'll have to change now that furlough's disappearing anyway, so they're going to have to be making big choices about. But a lot of them are going to close. That, no, and a lot of people are going to. I mean, I talk to a lot of people in the industry in various places regularly, and I can already see artists who are going to drop being artists full time. Agents I know that are jacking it in, venues that are closing, all manner of things.
They can only postpone things for so long.
Yeah.
I was talking to Ben Chalice, who is the entertainment lawyer for Glastonbury Festival. He's coming on here next month, I think, because I had him on a few years ago. He only lives in Kendal.
Oh, really?
As it happens. Yeah, because there's a big sort of movement now, isn't it, to try and reinvigorate the music industry.
We Are Viable and that kind of thing, and We Make Events thing. I think there's a lot of, understandably, ill feeling out there in the conversations about what are viable and not viable industries at the moment. And I think the problem, the music and the wider arts industry, and I think why people are so angry, is that the arts contribute an absolutely huge amount to the UK economy. It's massive. We're in the top 5 contributing sectors. Despite the fact that a lot of people play it off as unessential. I don't think people realise how much the arts contribute to the UK economy. And the only reason it's not viable now is because there's government legislation that makes it not viable. That's what makes it not viable.
But it also, isn't it the amount of people mixing together?
It kind of is. But
same with the football.
It is, but there are... You're right, but it's still the last... It's still the last of things. I mean, it's like, for example, there's nothing stopping you going to the cinema.
Not yet.
Not yet, although that is falling, admittedly.
There's also a public confidence, though. I wouldn't want to go to cinema right now.
Well, that is the other side of it. I don't know whether people would. But I just think there's sectors that have received help. Like, let's look at Eat Out to Help Out, for example, right? How many people are you cramming into a restaurant, or even if they're quite spacious, there'll be places that must have 60 upwards people sat at tables.
There's always going to be places that push it to the limit.
Yeah. Even places that were within their limits, if they're a big venue or a big restaurant, they must be taking... 60 to 100 people in some places. Now, there's absolutely nothing stopping you then also having a stage with someone performing on it and having that same same setup.
That's true, very true.
And not only that, but there's nothing stopping the government putting 10 quid in the pocket of each person that's buying a ticket to go to it, in the same way as they did for the eating. Just the help's there on one hand and it's not on the other. And I think it's a part of a wider systemic problem with how the arts are viewed in general in this country.
Completely non-essential.
Exactly.
Which is debatable.
Despite the fact that everyone turned to Netflix or reading a book or listening to the radio or any of those things while they're in lockdown. Those things just made magically.
They affect mental health, though, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
The less people have available to them when they can't go anywhere.
Exactly.
But yeah, like we could be in this virtual situation, for at least a couple more years.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the anger comes from the wider government message now is, who cares about not only the hours and years of training you put into being whatever you are, but just sack it off and retrain. You should all just be retraining because you're not a viable industry anymore. And I think the answer is, it's only not a viable industry because you're making it not viable. It's not that we're a dying industry. We're a thriving industry until it was taken away, essentially.
So has legislation made it illegal now for, like, what you were saying about having a music act playing while people were eating?
I think there's elements of legislation that make some of that illegal in some places, but then the other legislation makes it totally unviable. So I think is it 20% capacity that venues are allowed? Because where was it that did one of the venues did a trial, one of the London venues, Roundhouse it might have been, somewhere like that, did a trial on Frank Turner gig, I think it was, at the 20% capacity, But just the infrastructure behind a show like that, just from the lighting to the sound to the tour bus to the artist to the ticketing to the box office to the stewards to X, Y, and Z on 20% of their capacity. They're never going to make enough money to make that work.
No.
So either need someone to go, it's 20% capacity, but we're also going to plough money into it, or it needs to be high capacity, or it needs someone to recognise that one day, I think this is what makes me frustrated and a lot of other people frustrated, is that one day in the future, we're going to have the arts industry back again. And unless you do something now to preserve quite specialist job roles, then you're just going to destroy the entire industry. Yeah. So you are going to struggle, or we're going to have to be bringing people in from abroad that have kept it going, or any of those. There'll be a lot of
people who can't afford to wait around.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So and the government,
and then you've lost them forever.
Exactly, and the government are actively telling them not to wait around. They're telling them to retrain and take other jobs, and so.
So all of a sudden, teeth, really, isn't it?
All of a sudden, you don't have it. Then you don't have an industry essentially,
or someone thinking about doing it, not bothering.
Yeah,
who could be the next whoever?
Yeah, or the venues are closed. So where are the once grassroots venues start closing?
It's a bit of a tumble effect, isn't it?
Absolutely. Then where are the next bands coming from? Wait, and where is the British music scene in 30 years' time when we've not got the places that we played when we were teenagers supporting?
Like you start, and what have you got? You've got like the O2.
Exactly.
So it's all survived. It's like we can't really, conversations like this though are going on all over the place online.
Absolutely.
And the musicians, there's a lot. The artists themselves, especially the higher profile ones, have got a lot of responsibility in speaking out about it, which is what that movement is all about.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
But it's just so hard to predict.
It's a very funny, very strange,
it's a precarious place to be all of a sudden.
Absolutely.
When it's usually such a happy, creative place. Scary, really.
It is. I mean,
scary for people who are on the edge and it's like their life.
And so many of the people I know are that person, are that kind of, make enough to get by. I've got friends who are sound engineers. That one friend in particular who I really feel for him. He's someone that's doing some of the engineering for these gigs for me. He is fairly new. So he went self-employed as a touring engineer, I think maybe 2 years ago. But he was doing it before that alongside another job until he could build up enough work to take the plunge. But now he's an in-demand touring engineer. He's had absolutely tons of work in his diary. Part of the way he did that was he invested literally hundreds of thousands of pounds in gear. So he's all his own rig, multiple desks. He is set ready to go. Split a van. He can make your tour happen.
Yeah.
Did a lot of that on business loans, etc. Because he had all this work in the diary this year to pay it back. Nothing. I spoke to it in 3 days, literally £100,000 of work gone. But then he didn't qualify for any of the self-employed stuff because he'd only been self-employed,
not working long enough.
Yeah. So he didn't qualify for any of it. Had no job, so he's had absolutely zero help. He's got all these bills to pay essentially because he took out loans to buy the gear that were going to be covered by his monthly outgoings are huge,
just to cover his overheads.
Exactly. And so now he's like, do I just sell all my gear? How do I get by? It's kind of he falls, and there's a lot of people that fall into that lost.
So many people
bracket
that will echo so many people's situations.
Absolutely.
Right now. But it's
not to put too much of a downer on it or anything.
I know.
But
but basically, it's an advert not to be a musician. This one. Oh, I came across. I'll ask you your own question. Is there such thing as art for art's sake? What was the
lecture? What was the answer?
You put this out there. What was the answer?
Well, the thing is,
I read because I looked it up.
Yeah.
Like I did a bit of research after it, and some people say, well, art is always art for the sake of art.
I think.
Why else would you do it?
One of the beauties of getting into the role of lecturer is you can just ask wanky questions like that and
make yourself look really clever
and then leave it to the students. That's basically the format of my lectures. Is I like to throw out a question and then just let them debate it.
Do you have an opinion on it?
I do. I think once upon a time I would have said
this is not just music,
yes.
any kind of art.
Any kind of art, I think that I would have said yes once upon a time, but I think I question that now, especially as a community musician. I think art always has a meaning beyond the art, whether it's personal therapy, whether it's something for someone else, I think there's always something else attached to it that prevents it from being.
But it's a very unique, like for someone who doesn't know, it's a very unique thing to create something from scratch.
Exactly.
Get it made and get it out there for people, and then get feedback from total strangers.
Exactly. So I think for me, I think previously I would have called that art for art's sake, but actually the more I think about it, the more I think, well, it isn't ever just for the piece of art at the end of it, is it? It's always either there's a process for the person that creates it getting there, or I suppose there's then a reaction to it afterwards.
Yeah, and I think maybe sometimes subconsciously you want that reaction, which is maybe inspires you to do it in the first place. Maybe so. That's...
I think maybe I'd describe it as art doesn't exist in a vacuum, so it can't ever be for its own. It can't ever be its own thing. It's always attached to
a reason
humans.
Or there's a driving force behind it, which is usually. I don't know. I suppose it depends on the person. Depends on what the art is.
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting
Did you
question.
get any interesting answers back?
Loads of really interesting stuff. Those kinds of things, and a lot, because I think a lot of the students said things that I would have said when I was 19 or 20, which is a lot of them very adamant. Yes, there is such a thing as art for art's sake, but I think that's all about the wording of it, which is kind of what I'm trying to get at, I suppose, is that I think art is a powerful thing. And there's always something else going on beyond just the piece on its own. Like maybe it's like can you hear a tree falling in the forest if you're not there type thing. I think without humans is art. Is
there such thing as natural art?
Well, yeah, maybe there is. Maybe nature is art in itself.
It feels like we're in a lecture now.
Yeah,
my head hurts. I thought I was past all this stuff.
It does get I don't know if I have a definitive answer.
I was just scrolling and I saw that and I thought, it's an interesting question. I just wondered what you got out of asking that in the first place.
Well, I like to hear those kinds of conversations because
you get curveballs. Someone will say something like, "Whoa."
Yeah, definitely. And my whole approach to lecturing is that it's I can't really say any of this out without sounding like a total twat, but is my whole thing is that I think it's like an investigatory journey. Like it should be me and my students working together to find interesting answers to it.
But like I say, it's interesting. Like as a lecturer,
you
want it to be interesting, and
totally.
it's for the students. Nothing worse. We always remember those lessons at school where, mainly because of the whoever was teaching just wasn't interested, so they just verbatim out of the curriculum.
Exactly.
Like history for me, I had the worst history teacher. I can't even remember his name, but it was just so boring. And then since I've got into podcasting, I've listened like Dan Carling's Hardcore History is one of the most popular podcasts in the world. He does one every like 5 or 6 months, and each episode is like 5 hours long. He picks a time in history, and the way he tells it is so interesting. If I had a lecture that was anything like that, I probably would have paid a lot more attention.
It's like everyone remembers the lectures where it's just someone with a PowerPoint flicking through the slides and reading what's on it. I try not to use PowerPoint unless if I can get away with it. I try to make it more a discussion as much as possible.
It should always be a discussion.
I want to hear what they've got to say because I think, and also I try and get my students to like recommend music to me and stuff as well because like
stay in touch with the kids.
Well, yeah, that's it. Yeah,
you old man, you.
The thing is, though, I'm at like a music college that's famous for jazz, so like staying in touch with the kids isn't really what goes on there. It can be a little bit.
But do you feel like you don't? Like what's in the charts now? You're totally out of touch with that.
I don't think I was ever in touch with what was in the charts.
I was going to say I was a little bit when I was probably about 12, 13.
Yeah, maybe
Before I got into like rock and metal, I didn't really have a specific. Whatever was out.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't know. It seems to be that the normal as you get older, you don't care.
I don't know this concept of. Here's the stuff that I'm really learning from my students. I don't think the concept of something being in the charts really exists anymore.
Well, yes. Well, it's not.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Charts, but like what is considered mainstream.
Absolutely, but I think it's interesting that that's your go-to reference because it would be mine as well.
That's just my age.
But that would be totally what I would think as well. What's in the charts?
Yeah. It's the same thing as what's trending on like Spotify.
Yeah, that's
the same thing.
What's on top of the pops this week? That's that's kind of how I view it. But seeing how seeing how young people consume music now.
It's totally different.
It's really interesting.
They're just interested in individual tracks.
I threw a question into one of my lectures that was meant to last like 2 or 3 minutes that probably ended up going for about 45, which was literally just this. Do you all listen to playlists? Was the opening to it. And the second thing was, how do you decide what's going on a playlist? And then how do you name your playlists? Right? You think they'd be quite simple questions, but some of the shit that came back at me like blew my mind. Honestly,
Go on then. Blow our minds.
Right, one person. I don't name my playlists. I just give them each an emoji.
That's such a sign of like now, isn't it?
What? And I was like, when someone told me that, I was like, I can't even comprehend that. So I had to be like, right, well, what emojis do you have? And like, what does that emoji mean? And what kind of songs are on it? And how do you choose? So we just ended up going off on.
They don't listen to, like, if I discovered a really good song by a band,
Yeah.
I would dive into that band.
Same.
They don't do that.
Or at least the album.
They're just a good song. Oh, I'll listen to a random song by somebody else now.
Yeah.
They're just totally.
It's weird, isn't
just
it?
individual tracks.
Weird.
There's no,
Yeah.
The concept of them, like one of their favorite artists brings out an album.
Yeah.
They want this artist wants you to listen to this whole piece of work from beginning to end.
I know,
Like,
someone's crafted that.
Yeah. But I don't think they are crafting it as much anymore. Though.
Well, maybe not, but then and I can feel myself feeling those things, and I can feel myself getting enraged, and then I can also see that I'm just becoming that bearded man that's going, but when I listen to
In
music,
my day.
exactly, like, oh, what's happening? How can you possibly enjoy it all?
But
Sorry.
I can't imagine what those kids now will be like in 20 years.
Who knows?
Who knows what the music's going to be like?
Well,
then.
it'll come back round again, maybe.
I don't know if it'll ever come back to albums though. I can't. The medium just doesn't seem to support albums anymore.
No, apart from, I guess, a resurgence in vinyl, but
Yeah.
but
you
even
get a lot
so,
more artists now who'll just put the odd track out here and there.
well, that's
just
they
to keep
say
things
that's how to
ticking
do
over.
it. Yeah.
Even like a couple of tracks, so that next time you go on tour, you've got a couple of new songs to play.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, there's some artists
Constant
they'll go
content.
for a few years where they'll never even say the word album.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Constant content, yeah.
Whereas, I don't. It depends on what kind of music you're into, but is it in any kind of indie band or rock band or whatever? It's always been about doing an album. You've always all that checklist
Absolutely,
of things.
yeah.
I want to go in a studio and I'm recording an album. I would hope that some element of that will never get lost.
I don't think it will. I think it'll. I mean, I have to believe it won't. Otherwise, it's a bit like it's a step too depressing.
Yeah, but you spend a lot of time just at a mixing desk, just going over tracks,
Too much time.
listening to the same takes, editing.
Yeah, I think people think it's quite a glamorous job. When it was one of the things that when me and my wife started living together, I think she hadn't prepared herself for how many times she was going to hear 3 seconds of one soloed vocal over and over at full blast from upstairs while I like tune it or like work out the right reverb or EQ a little bit of it. And she has to, and like it's not glamorous at
Get
all.
some headphones on.
I know. It's like, I
You
can't do
mix
it.
in headphones.
I know.
No.
That's it. It's like you've been watching my life. That's kind of
Oh, I've done a bit of that.
yeah.
Like our last thing we ever released, I did all the demos to quite a decent standard, so that we could just go into the studio. Just
What was your medium? How were you doing them?
Cubase. I dabbled with Pro Tools, but it was a bit too much. I didn't need it all.
I think
It's pretty full on.
yeah, but also I think anyone that's like you not proper if you're not using Pro Tools or anything like that. I think that's a load of crap.
I had Pro Tools, but it just
I think whatever works for you doesn't matter. It's just a tool.
Yeah.
I've never been one of those like tech heads. I'm not like I play a bit of gigs still a little bit, and you always get someone at the end that comes over. And I've got a decent guitar, right? But I don't know a lot about it. I went into the shop, I played a load, I liked it. I sounded the nicest, it felt the nicest, I bought it.
Yeah.
That's how it went. It's just a tool. But you always get someone that goes, I've actually got a Martin D15 myself at the end of the gig. And I'm like, I don't want to talk about that. Like, let's talk about the music or whatever.
Yeah, I had a lot of that. People come up to, like talk about the internal parts of a guitar. I'm like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like the guitarist Kev, go and talk to him. He knows all about that stuff. I have got a clue.
I've never been
pick
like
it up,
that.
it makes noise.
I've never been like that. And I think the same about like Pro Tools or in DAWs, anything like that. Just I use Pro Tools because I didn't have any history in music tech at all until I did my degree. I did straight music. I played classical at school. I mean, I was in rock bands and stuff, but I didn't have I'd done no music tech. And when I went to college, they just went Pro Tools is industry standard, and it was the first thing I learned.
Yeah,
and there you
which
go.
is-
So I
which
learned
is why I started on it.
Yeah.
But when I had a friend who had Nuendo
Mhm.
first, which is similar to Cubase,
Mhm.
like different versions. But he gave me a copy of Cubase, and he said he taught me through it. And it's pretty similar. The principle is similar to Pro Tools.
Yeah.
I get the
The thing with
tracks
Pro
and all
Tools, you
that,
got to be
so-
minted, because it's
Yeah,
the
it's
same reason
expensive.
because I use Logic as well. And the reason behind that was when I was at uni and I had no money, like Logic comes with a ton of plugins inbuilt that you will get you going. Whereas Pro Tools, unless you were buying plugins, you were quite limited.
Yeah.
So I got into a habit of here's one for all the sound tech nerds out there. We can have this conversation. I got into the habit of tracking in Pro Tools and then exporting my projects to Logic to mix, and that's still what I do now. Even though
Why have you ended up with that?
well, I was doing it originally because I'd learnt Pro Tools, I was proficient at it, I was quick at editing, I was quick at tracking, I knew all the shortcuts and I could do it really well. Didn't know any of those things in Logic because that's what I learnt first on Pro Tools. But then when I wanted to get better at mixing, I didn't have any plugins that I could use in Pro
You
Tools.
couldn't afford any.
Couldn't afford any plugins, but I did have a student education license of Logic because it was like 200 quid then. With all of those in, so I started then learning to mix in Logic, but I'd never done any of my tracking there because I'd been doing it in Pro Tools, and I just never bothered to learn to track in Logic, and so now that's my routine. But now I find it now it's part of my process. Now it's like there's a line drawing it under it stage for me where I'm like, I'm done with Pro Tools. Now let's enter the mix. That's kind of how I see it in Logic.
But the times since we've been back, when I've gone past that room, and I can hear you just going over the same. Like I've done that. I've spent the hours doing that.
Yeah.
It's got to be just right.
Yeah,
You're listening for something.
Yeah, you lose days to that.
But then you go to bed like it's in your head.
Yeah. I mean, I hate pretty much everything I've ever mixed off the bat.
That is a thing, especially when like doing my own stuff.
Yeah.
It's like certain songs I don't want to hear that song anymore.
How do you
I've got to
find?
go to a studio and record it?
How do you find tracking yourself as well?
No real issues.
I used to hate it. I used to hate, and I'd find myself, and I'd get into these little like I'd lose hours to like, just weird kind of. I'd have my computer like here to one side, and I'd have a guitar here or whatever, and I'd be like, record, no, that wasn't good enough, stop, undo, record, and then I'd find myself in that pattern, and I'd have to eventually go, am I just saying that was it good enough? I've not even listened back to it for about an hour.
That was something I learned, was to like just do the whole take.
Yeah.
Because especially when I was just doing like demos, you can always cut and paste the best bits to make it sound that good. Then just play along to that bit and try and get it as good, and then just keep going.
Yeah. I was never very good at that.
But that's something I learned going in the studio with a producer who really, once we went through 3 or 4 times, he really knew how to get the best out of us, and it was like really got you good at, like, especially I was rhythm guitar, so getting those perfect takes over and over again. But it got to the point the last couple of times where it didn't take as many takes because I knew all how to prep before I went in.
I think that's a big thing
like
for the artist.
Getting a click track at home and just getting the track, just nailing it. So when you go in there, it's just a different version.
I also find one of the, like, I work with, there's a few artists I work with now who I've worked with for a long period, and we've maybe done on like second, third albums now, and you definitely also build up a relationship with artists, and you kind of learn how to work with them because everyone's a little bit different, but also they learn how the studio works a lot better. So I just made a record recently with someone. It's the second record I've made with them, and the process was miles better than it was the first time because they knew what was possible. They knew when to trust me on that fine line between do it again, you can do it better, and that's good enough. And where there's and trusting me on that and knowing what I can do with it and what I'll sound. You got to build those relationships. That's kind of half the battle.
It's also knowing when someone's going downhill, when they've reached their peak.
Yeah.
He was Matt Ellis at Access Studios. He was really good at that, especially for vocals. He would just know first take when it was slightly downhill. You've got right, take a break now.
Yeah, I think that's the job. I think that anybody can learn how to use the gear. Anyone can learn how to use the gear, but the psychological is what I get a real kick out of working with people and learning about them and finding the ways to get their best takes because everyone is different. That's the stuff I really get a kick out of, is that side of it.
Other key things I've learned, when you make changes, do a version A, version B, version C. There's been a few times when I've gone from version D of like the next day, I've gone back to version A and I prefer version A.
Yeah, but you'll have done what I've done in the past, which is like you've made changes and then just hit save, and then to get back to that version
And
A.
you can't remember what the one before was.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So
save multiple edits. Yeah.
Yeah. But you just things that you just learn is just doing it. But I love being in the studio. Some people don't. Some people don't like it.
Some people really don't like it, do
No.
they? Yeah.
They find it a chore. They're just like, just get this done so I can go and play it live.
I think it's an interesting thing about studios as well, about how you build them and how you want your studio to be perceived and what is good for an artist. I think when I first took on this job, I felt like it was a studio that had been built by somebody who doesn't spend a lot of time in studios. Because one of the first things I wanted to do was like get some rugs in, get some lamps in, and I think I think some people think, and there was definitely some of this attitude here. This is a state of the art studio, so people need to know it's state of the art. And I kind of had to say, well, people being in a state-of-the-art studio that feels expensive isn't how you get the best takes out of them. They need to play their music. That's the biggest thing.
Well, if it looks too high end, they might put them off coming in the first place.
Exactly. Any of those things. You've got to create an environment where they can just play. And so I spent a lot of time getting the right lighting, any of those kind of things, turning lights off. You
don't forget hard floors in a recording
Yeah.
space either.
We've got tons of rugs that I kind of pull out.
Well, I was going to say, one of the best experiences I had, which I would recommend to any band, is you can't underestimate the bonding experience of a band going into a studio and doing something together. Like, I remember Steve, our drummer, because there was a big conversation about, do you mind if we all sit in while you record your parts?
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I don't mind. But Steve, after I finished the first song, I did all the rhythm tracks, he came up to me and goes, you're actually a really good rhythm guitar player. But I always sit behind you, so I have no idea what you do. No idea.
I think bands always find that, like, oh, that's what you play in that bit. Like, they've never heard the song like that.
Then he was going, oh, but you sing at the same time. That's even more. But that's what I did struggle with. I felt I would be a better guitar player or a better singer.
Right.
Put together, it always knocked me down a little bit.
Yeah.
I really, especially stuff we were playing.
But I assumed you recorded them separately.
No, I was just talking about live, though.
Oh, about live, yeah. But you get away with it live, don't you?
Yeah, but I don't want to get away with it.
That's how musicians always feel, but I think there's something about the live experience. Things have to be perfect live. It's the show.
No,
it's the show, isn't it?
It just changes things. I remember when I first started singing, you think you're good on the guitar, then you add singing on top of it. It feels like you're starting all over again. But it does, well, because we play riffs. I don't do much chord-based.
I've had a listen. I've watched some of your videos.
All right, yeah.
I had to see you in action as well.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, Kev. I remember Kev always saying, I don't know how you managed to play what we play and sing at the same time. But it was always a struggle.
Yeah.
Especially trying to look after your voice and trying to practice all the time and not get complacent.
Do you still play a lot?
Nah.
Really?
Nah.
Do you miss it?
Not as much. I did it first.
Yeah.
But now I find this is all I want to do.
Really? Yeah.
I just like talking to people because I always made an effort to do that when we were like on tour and stuff.
Yeah.
But it was like,
well, they're the bands that make it, aren't they? The people that can actually have a conversation and like, it's not, I think everyone thinks it's the rock and roll lifestyle, but really, no one wants to work with arseholes. So.
Well, yeah, that's come up a lot and with producers that I've spoken about, they don't want to work with people like that either.
Yeah.
Like who just they think they're it, rather than people who are really humble and
yeah.
We had Robin. Remember Robin Plumley?
Yes, indeed.
He used to be sound control in Manchester. He used to be one of the managers there.
Oh, okay.
And he said sometimes you would get this really big band who would come through, and they were like just the riders were ridiculous.
Yeah.
They were just not very nice people. They were just complaining about everything. Then you get like a middle band come in, just nice as pie, help you with the gear themselves.
Yeah.
No problems whatsoever.
And then nail the show.
And then absolutely nail the show. Yeah. So it's just. You get it.
And I think that's it. I heard a really interesting interview. Now, who was it? It was with because it was 25 years since What's the Story? Morning Glory the other day.
Yeah,
heard an interview on the radio with a photographer who worked with them a lot, and he was saying for all the Oasis that you think you see. Because he'd take photos of them in the studio and stuff, they were just uber professional, in, quickly, get the job done, do it really well. And I think a lot of people just see the image of the band and they think they're just like that all of the time. But people aren't successful who are like that all the time. You've got to be able to do the job. You've got to be able to nail it.
It almost feels like they're in the wrong job.
Yeah.
If you're not, if you're not enjoying it, you're not like happy. It's like why bother?
Yeah.
But people don't want to work with like. They'll make work with you once and then
Yeah.
I wonder why they don't want to work with you again.
People get blacklisted and people don't think that
Yeah.
happens, but I've worked for various places where there's people we won't work with anymore, agents, artists, crew, any of those that we're just going, nah, not bother working with them.
It's like I have gigs where like someone will borrow someone's amp or something, but then they'll put the beer on top of their amp.
Yeah.
Like, come on. It's just like common
Yeah, any
decency.
of that.
It used to drive me up the wall, things like that. But not that I would say anything, because
Yeah.
it's just more hassle than it's worth. But
That's
it's
it.
like, I'll just make a note of that band,
Very
avoid
much.
them.
So do you even have like an acoustic kicking around the house that you pick up and
I've
have a
still
little
got all my
noodle on
guitars
every
and-
Yeah.
I've got it all set up, but no, I never have the inclination to.
It's going to hit. It's going to hit in like 15 years.
It's going to hit now because I'm coming to a recording studio. Maybe.
Yeah, that's it.
No, I haven't really. What about you, bands? Like bands, you're in a band.
Not really.
What did I see?
like-
Folky Cat.
With Kat. So that's not you've misunderstood that. That's just her Twitter handle.
Okay, it sounds like a band name.
No, it does, doesn't it? But no, that's Kat, who I'm doing Live to Your Living Room with now.
Have you actually been in a band?
We do like these projects together. So she's got a community music background as well. So we've done some like community music project stuff together. So we do have a band, but it's specifically for that. So she's a Makaton signer. I don't know if the Makaton the sign language.
No.
It's all right. So it's like a communication aid for people with learning disabilities. It's not
normal sign language.
Not like sign language for deaf people, where they sign a literal translation, like sentences. Makaton is like the meaning of a sentence. So it might only include 2 or 3 signs, and it would accompany speech, or it'd be used to encourage speech, or if it's like a communication aid. It also goes alongside like picture aids and stuff like that.
Okay.
She's proficient. Makaton signer, and we do these songs that are aimed for like relaxed performances for people with learning disabilities and stuff, where she also signs the songs while she's singing them.
Right.
So we do that work together. Other bands, I used to be in a band called, I guess I kind of still am, but we don't really exist anymore, called the Electric Lights, which was the first kind of proper rock band I've been in since I was like 17.
Have you got music that's actually out there now?
Yeah, they're on Bandcamp. The Electric Lights. We're called the Electric Lights.
Make a note of that. We'll put it in the show notes.
Basically, so I was when I moved to Cambridge, I was loads of backstory, but I had a friend there who was already in a band, and they'd been doing like kind of folky acoustic stuff. And they were 2 songwriters. My friend Cliff, who's like the same age as me, his friend Lester, who's like in his 60s, and their friend Ian, who's a drummer, who was playing like percussion in that. So it's 2 guitarists and a percussionist. They were doing like kind of rootsy, folky, bit Americana-y like song stuff. And then I think they basically just all went, she sack this off and get our electric guitars out again. And so that's what they decided to do. So that's why they became the Electric Lights, because they were the lights before that. And then they needed a bass player, and I just moved to the area. And I used to
4 strings.
I used to be a bass player. I was a bass player before anything else. Before I was a guitarist anyway. So I was like, yeah, I'm up for that. So then we just did that for a bit, and then we just thought, oh, let's just record loads of stuff. So we put out a vinyl just because we've never done it. Let's just do it for the sake of it. So that was a bit of fun. Obviously, I moved out the area, so I'm not doing any of that anymore. But just recently, I've been getting itchy again for it. I've really just.
What's your ideal role in a band?
To know, really. I think, if I'm honest,
Sound engineer.
no, not at all. I think if I'm honest, it's front man. I gotta be honest with myself about it.
Okay.
When I was a teenager, I was in a band from like 14 to 18,
Can
and
you sing?
I was the front man then. I mean, I'm not going to say I can sing, but I was the front man.
Sing and play guitar.
I played bass then. I sung and played bass. Never been in a band playing guitar. I didn't really play guitar until I was quite a lot older. Taught myself because, like every 17-year-old, I wrote on bass, and then I was like, I should gotta be able to play the guitar. And I played piano and stuff already, so I just taught myself to play guitar then. But now I pretty much only play guitar. So yeah, just recently I've been feeling like I really want to be in like a proper rock band again. Like just, one last hurrah. That's kind of.
It'll happen eventually.
I think so I made a New Year's resolution that I was going to start writing and playing again, and I had a big idea for a project that I've just not made happen yet. That's kind of it's meant to be a bit of a secret, but I spoke about it somewhere else recently. So
I'm loose-lipped.
I just got half an idea about putting a band together of musicians across the country, of people who, similar age to me, like mid-30s, but doing kind of what we all listened to when we were teenagers, I guess. Maybe just putting together like a proper kind of...
Which is like what?
Like a kind of grungy rock band,
Okay,
I guess,
yeah,
essentially. Yeah. I really fancy it, and I think let's bring
back grunge.
Everyone's been trying to do that since like the 90s,
1994.
Yeah, exactly. I think what I'm into really is like kind of grungy rock with like a massive chorus, like that kind of like big hit.
That's like Nirvana, then.
Yeah, well, very much like that. So my idea is that I might write some stuff. This is kind of what I'm building towards. I'm going to write some stuff, and I'm going to send it on and I'll record it, but just like loosely, like maybe a guitar part, some lyrics, a vocal melody, and then I'll send it on to someone else. I've got 4 musicians in mind. I haven't told any of them this yet, but I've kind of hinted that I've got a project idea, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll be up for anything." So send it on to another guy, and then I'd say to them, you add whatever you think needs to be added on your part, so either guitar or bass, whatever. But also, feel free to butcher whatever I've done. So if you think the verse should be taken out or a bit should be moved, or
you think
the structure
it should be
changed,
feel free.
anything along those lines, do whatever you want to the song. I don't mind. I trust you. And then you'll do the same thing. You'll send it on to the drummer, and they'll do it, and then it'll go all the way through, and then it'll end up at a mix engineer. So I've got someone in mind for that, my friend Matty.
Of course you have.
And he'll mix it. A stage that I've not heard it until at any of those stages it's gone through. So I'll just do my writing and then send it on.
You'll hear it at the end.
And then I'll hear it at the end. And then the idea is I'd have some other people in on it who would also be writers. So then maybe they'd write something. And we'd all write a few things and we'd end up with a mixed album of songs that we all wrote together along the way, but never together. And we don't know, none of us know what it sounds like until the end.
As a control freak, I wouldn't like that because I like to be involved in all the aspects of it. But at the same time, you could like say some parts I like, some parts I don't, but then you can put it out and everyone can love it.
I think what's really interesting is working.
No one ever works like that, so it's
well, I think one of the people I've got in mind also do a bit of production work and stuff as well. So we're all kind of have done all the roles, and I think some of the most exciting roles of a producer is the ones that get in early on writing and can say. And can kind of become part of the band in that sense, give feedback on structure, and I tell people to cut things or add in a section if I think it's missing it or any of those kind of things, because I think when I'm just being a producer, my role is to help them create a product. They might have written something that works amazingly live, or they might have written something that sounds brilliant in a practice room, but I'm helping them get from that to something that is a recorded product, and that is a different thing. So they need someone to say, that intro's too long, cut some bars from that, you're dragging this bit out. Yeah, you all love that riff and you love playing it and it works live, but I'm 40 seconds into the song and I haven't heard a vocal or whatever. They need someone to tell them all that stuff. So, and I think even me, I don't mean it like that. I mean, I realise that's what I was going to say then.
Even I. Lord Ord.
I know what I didn't mean it like that. What I meant was anyone that writes something themselves is subject to losing themselves in the writing process, and everybody needs somebody else to say, actually, you've that needs to go, or you've not done that bit right. So my thought process is that as it goes on to each person, they'd be making those production decisions and instrumental decisions, and hopefully we'd get something really wicked at the end.
It would be weird for them though to like make a change but then not tell you about it or ask you.
Totally.
Just to go, right, I'm doing it.
Yeah, and
hope he likes it.
Exactly. I think there's something interesting in it. So my idea is that at the end of it we'd have this album, but then we'd put it out, but not tell anyone that it's us either. So my idea is that we'd all talk to some friends like a bit and say, look, I've done this thing. Don't tell anyone I've done this thing. Could you tweet about it, post on Instagram, say you've heard this new album, you like this new band? We'll just go by a name, put any pictures on it, and just see if we can can grow something. Yeah. Just for a bit of fun. Just like I've got this idea as a bit of fun to kind of try it for nothing other than I think it might be quite enjoyable.
It's a good experiment, isn't it?
Yeah. So it's meant to be happening this year, but obviously we've all been a bit sidetracked.
But more time to do stuff like that if you're not...
More time to do stuff like that, but I think because also So much of me was like, on the one hand, it's like, oh, suddenly I've got all this time, I could do loads of things. But on the other hand, I was like, oh my God, I've lost loads of work. Who am I going to make the money back from? You know, and you just kind of get into panic mode. Yeah, exactly.
So if there's anyone who's in our area listening, or maybe not, who could potentially come here, what does this studio offer to musicians?
I think what we offer is quite a range of things. I'm really interested in grassroots music. I'm really interested in everybody being able to turn out a brilliant product. And I think what I don't want to get lost is the value of a studio and the value of a producer, especially with the advent of home recording and all the things that you can do at home. But I also recognise that not everyone can afford to do full studio albums. So what I'm trying to offer here is anything and everything in between. If you want to come and do a full album production here and spend 4 weeks here, you can do it. Like, we can make that happen, and we can do it all, and we can do the whole thing, and I can get involved early on and make all those changes I'm talking about. But also, if you've got Logic at home and you've got an amp mod that you're happy with on your guitars, but you want to come in here and track some really decent sounding drums or something that's hard to do at home, then I'm all for people, you know, coming in for a day and tracking those things.
For a lot of people, drums is the issue.
Exactly.
Because you can't do it that easy at home.
Exactly. So we could come in, you could track all your drums, you could take that away, you could add in your guitars if you wanted to, then you could send it all back to me to mix it. You know, I'm interested in that kind of hybrid project too. Anywhere in between those two things,
so would you, if someone had demos that they wanted you to like sort of produce, sort of thing?
I do quite a lot of that actually at the moment. So I've done
tracks that they've recorded somehow.
Yeah, so I've had a few singer-songwriters come in. I'm working on one of those things that's exactly like that at the moment. So I've had, so if I describe this project, I've had another one similar. Guy came in, pianist and a singer, and he tracked his songs, and then I kind of talked him through how I thought it would be, the sound he wanted at the end of it. And a lot of that involved, I think you want some drums coming in here, a bit of bass, blah, blah, blah. And then I've tracked those things for
So have you actually recorded the drums?
Yeah, I've done the drums. Right. I've done the drums, the bass, and any extra bits. And, you know, if they wanted to come in and add a guitar on or whatever, they could do that. But we're kind of working together on it, and I don't mind tracking those things. And I'm not then like charging me as a session player or anything. I'm just doing it to keep projects reasonable.
Yeah.
So it's not like if I say, "Oh, I think you should have X, Y, and Z on it," then I'm suggesting you also pay for 3 session musicians.
Yeah,
I'm kind of offering to do it essentially, within the realms of what I can do. But that's, you know, backline. I could do drums, bass, guitar, keys.
Yeah,
backing vocals. I've done those. It's only if you wanted something specialist that I'd have to look at getting someone in.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of pimping out people's things, so they've got EPs and stuff. So doing quite a lot of that kind of thing.
So have you got much of a catalogue online that people can check out? Stuff?
Yeah, it's forever growing. There's but on the studio at sunbeams.co.uk website, there's a media section on there that kind of
we'll put a link in the show notes.
Highlights things that I've been doing, and I'm constantly adding to that every time something new comes in. I try to add it in. I'm trying to showcase as many different styles as possible, but obviously we're a new studio, and I've got what styles have come in so far.
You just adapt.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're kitted out to take anything here pretty much. I mean, we've got one of the amazing things about when I started here was they've got an amazing custom built studio already. Like, there's not many venues in the north of England, yet alone in Cumbria.
I've not seen anything like this
that's
around here.
A purpose built studio. A lot of times it might be a barn conversion or something that's been turned into a studio, isn't it? Or a bit of someone's house, but fully purpose built. So they've got an amazing setup on the rooms and that kind of thing. They've got they had a bunch of great gear, had some good outboard already, some good compressors and stuff. They were missing a good set of plugins and mics when I came.
That's why they hired you.
Well, so I came, and on an off chance, I was like, I'd really love to buy a load of microphones and some plugins, and they basically went, okay.
Ideal situation.
We'll raise the money for it. So they did. So I've bought, I'm really lucky to have, I've bought like my own spec mic list. So and that's, I know from hiring studios and stuff for myself in the past, that's like the big hitter for me. Good mics,
absolutely.
So
for whatever you're recording,
exactly. So we've got probably one of the best mic, definitely my best mic list in the county, I would say, that we've got here, and across the northwest, really.
I wouldn't argue with that.
And we've got a great set of inbuilt plugins, so we're there kind of ready to go.
After this, we'll take some photos and I'll put them. I'll put them in the show notes. But it's.
So for me, I just really want to get involved in the local scene. It's hard because I do live away, and a lot of this year was in my head put aside for like coming up here, spending more time up here, getting to Plug and Play and to the Brickyard.
I was going to ask you about Plug and Play. I didn't know if you were aware of it or not.
Yeah, so I kind of know these things are there, but I've just like I don't want to just be a studio. I want to be like a part of the local scene. I want people to think of us as contributing to the Cumbria music scene, not just with recordings, but I want to be involved in lots of other ways. I'm working with a videographer at the moment, John Shedwick, who is we're just again, it's another like scuppered by COVID thing, but we're starting to do a monthly series of live from the studio sessions. So we've been using the big hall. He's come in, filmed multiple angles. I've recorded.
That hall is incredible,
isn't it? So we're looking at doing. I don't know if you've ever seen the NPR Tiny Desk shows or anything like that. No. They do like these little concerts, like 15-minute. They do like half an hour ones, but we're doing like 3 tracks where we'll put it out as an entirety as on YouTube, but we'll also cut up each track and then put them out an artist a month, and then we'll invite all Cumbrian artists, specifically from here, and we'll invite an artist in a month to come in and film, record 3 songs with us, and then they can just have that as their promo, but it'll be out there online, and we'll kind of be pushing it. And then hopefully some of the byproduct of that is John and I are hoping to offer being able to come in here and record and film, to do videos and stuff here.
I was just going to say that because part of my idea for this was so obviously I started off just music industry, and I've varied to any industry now, but if I do have musicians on here, how cool would it be to have like a little setup in the hall where once we finish the podcast, we go in there,
absolutely,
do like a 3 or 4 songs.
Well, we could definitely do
like
that. We could definitely
film it and then put it out.
Definitely could do that. We could even incorporate that in with John, and we could make that whole thing. Well, that's kind of our idea.
Or even separately offer, like you were saying, that facility where a band could hire it just to do like a cool session in there. Because the lighting in there is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the idea of doing this monthly thing was also a way of kind of advertising that as a thing that you could do here as well, and as a way of kind of trying to give something to the scene. Essentially, I'm keen to be involved in the scene. I don't want to be just a studio. I don't want to be all about the business. I don't want to be all about people, money through the door. I want to be about
it's the creative side of it.
Definitely. And I'm interested in what's going on with Cumbrian bands, and I know that, and I try and pay attention. I listen to Tom Salmon's show, and I try and keep.
Yeah,
on
I want to have him
of,
on here as well.
Yeah, so I'm trying to keep on top of stuff that's happening in the area as much as I can. Which obviously is less now at the moment. But yeah, that's what I'd really like, is to kind of be part of
We'll get there.
Yeah, I hope so.
Working as a team.
Yeah, definitely.
But so the other thing that all producers are addicted to is coffee. You've always got a coffee there, have you?
Yeah, pretty much. It's like... it's probably not the best way of keeping going, but
it's like industry standard.
It's like coffee, beer, and then that's kind of how the day goes.
Studio, SM58 coffee.
Yeah, very much.
Have you got an SM58?
Oh, we've got multiple 58s. Yeah.
Cool. That's the first mic I ever owned.
You don't want to get into those conversations where you start just throwing out mic numbers at people.
Well, it is widely regarded as one of the industry standards microphones.
It's pretty much
has been for many years.
Yeah, definitely live. Less so in recording.
Yeah.
But
every studio has one though.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a few 58s kicking around.
But yeah, coffee. Because do you know much actually about coffee, or do you just drink it?
I'd like to think I do, but I don't really. Is the answer?
Because I love coffee, and I just buy like Nescafe.
Right.
I like it, but I'm thinking, because we had a conversation about that AMRAP Coffee Co.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, well, it looks like that's real proper coffee that they've sourced from somewhere.
So I definitely would only drink. I hate those people I got to do proper coffee. But
no, but I mean, is it like me just drinking Nescafe? Is that proper coffee, or is that just like
not? if not to the people that would say that, there's a brilliant David Mitchell thing where he goes on about, look it up, he was on the Graham Norton show. It's one of those things that he has a little rant about people that talk about proper coffee, and it's a really good rant. But I probably am one of those people that would say that.
But I just because I came across their website and I was like, and they're local as well. So
interesting
like,
company.
Yes, can we pull that up? AMRAP Coffee Co. Do you know what AMRAP stands for?
As many rounds as possible.
I think
or as many reps as possible.
That is what it is it?
Yeah. It's like a CrossFit kind of.
Right.
So they created their brand based on that sort of training.
I think I'm assuming they're going for that like pre-workout market type. I think people, because a lot of people that talk about, I'm going to say like anyone that can see the visuals of this. No, I don't go to the gym, but I'm gonna make it sound like I do. I read lots of things about maybe one day going to the gym, and you see a lot of people talk about taking pre-workout and stuff, don't you? So I guess they
AMRAP Coffee.
Yeah, what
athletes.
Yeah, coffee for athletes.
I like the branding.
I like the branding too. Although it reminds me a little bit of you're going to have them on, so I'll take it easy.
25 kilos of coffee. Surely not.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the idea. You buy it and then work out with it. Although they'd be gradually getting lighter and lighter as you. The wrong way round, isn't it?
I'm guessing it's their way of measuring the strength of coffee.
Oh, it's like a kettlebell.
So if it's like, what strength of coffee do you want? Oh, I like the 50 kilo coffee.
Oh,
it's like,
well
that's
done.
too much for me.
That might be.
Yeah,
That's
well
cool.
done. I didn't clock that when I saw it last time.
Coffee has grades.
Yeah.
See, I know nothing about coffee, and I feel like, am I missing out?
Yeah, normally it'd be like a 1 to 5 type thing.
But apart from that, it's like, I like the branding. They're local.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people who use them and like shout about them.
Okay.
So I was like, which one? Because we talked about it.
We should definitely give it a bash.
Yeah, I should order some.
Because they all say 25 kilos.
All right, maybe that's just their. Maybe that's just their part of their branding.
I was wrong. Never mind. I take it back.
But how much is it? So.
But it's 250 grams.
Which one was it? RX. I don't know what RX means.
RX, I believe, means standard.
I was hoping they were going to have one like
CrossFit.
for the mind, a functional mind, the one that's going to help your mind.
Oh, I think there is one. There's one.
Is it functional?
I don't know if that's what they call their everyday coffee. I looked that one up. I remember that. That's what it's not too strong, like a mid range.
Maybe it is the RX one then.
No idea.
If you click on it, does it have a?
Yeah,
it
tells you about them. I did have a look. I like the branding too, but it reminds me a little bit of Arm & Hammer. You know, the toothpaste.
Our RX product is our super strong, great tasting drink.
Super strong. I like strong coffee.
Me too.
All right.
Okay.
I'll do. Should I order it?
Get the RX in, and next time you're in here, we'll give it a little.
I'll get it delivered here.
Yeah.
So scale. Decaf. Makes sense.
See, I don't understand what. So decaf.
Right. What don't you understand about that?
It's just got no coffee in it.
Well,
it's got caffeine in it.
It's got no caffeine in it. Yeah.
Or less caffeine.
No, I think, but it'll still just taste like you're drinking a coffee, but without the druggy side effects, which is why everyone drinks it. Surely.
See, I'm just being honest. Like, I just thought, is that just too? Am I reading that too? It's just got no coffee in it, no caffeine. But yeah.
Yeah, that's straight up. It's like no alcohol beer, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's not for me then. I want that.
Yeah, exactly.
I love coffee, but yeah, I've had this for years where I thought like, because I used to drink tea, but then I've tried to cut out sugar, and I used to have sugar in my tea, and I realised I don't like tea without sugar. Right. So I went to coffee, and I like coffee.
That's interesting, because I think coffee is quite an interest, like to move from a non-sugared tea, because you didn't like it, to liking coffee.
Yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, it's a bold move.
I've tried different teas as well, and it's like, now I don't like any of them, and I used to just always drank both, but I like coffee, so...
Do you have sugar in your coffee?
No.
Interesting.
No.
Milk?
Yeah, I have milk, yeah. So, right. So, should we get RX?
I would go RX because I like a strong coffee.
Is it the filter one? Is that the one that goes in the
cafetiere?
Or so the whole bean? There's a cafetiere one.
Yeah, that's what I would get.
Right. So £7.49. How much does that actually get you? What's the weight?
25 kilograms.
25 kilograms. That's a good deal.
Here's your coffee, sir.
Does it say how much?
250 grams.
Okay, right.
I'm
normal.
Yeah, because I get the Nescafe is 200 grams, and that's decent size. So, okay.
I think I'm going to be honest, Mark. I think they would be upset if you were putting Nescafe and theirs comparably next to
just purely volume, purely size. This is what we'll try it then. We'll try it.
Yeah.
And if the AMRAP Coffee Co guys are listening, I'll have you on the show. We'll do it.
I'd be interested to hear what they, because I think it's a
Yeah, but I want them to come on and
kind
explain
of
all these.
Yeah, it's kind of blowing my mind a bit, just even
Yeah.
the concept of it.
I like
When
the
you showed
concept.
me it, I was like, I can't get my head around this.
No, it's cool.
No, but they're all CrossFit terms, so you don't really, unless you know CrossFit.
No.
then
What's RX?
RX is like standard.
Okay.
So, in my limited CrossFit experience, you have a set workout, and RX. They would say the RX weight for this exercise, this move is like
At the standard.
100 kilograms.
Right, okay.
Or
Right.
if you're not quite as athletic as those guys, you can scale it and do a little bit less weight. So that's
Okay.
what scaled means.
Right, okay.
Interesting.
So RX is like the standard.
Right.
If you don't
Nice.
do the RX, then you do a scaled version of said workout.
Yeah. I'd like them to come on and explain all
And
this.
the RX is always mega hard.
Okay. Right.
Ridiculous.
It says it's strong, so I like strong coffee.
It is for seasoned.
Like when I'm putting the
experts.
spoon in, it's like it's heaps as high as it'll go. I put it in.
You like
that's how I
it,
saw
it's
it. Yeah.
bending under the weight of it.
Yeah. And a normal amount of milk.
Yeah. There needs to be like a key or something on here, so you've got an idea of what the different colours mean.
Yeah.
True. Yeah.
So
I like it.
They do tell you. I did click through on a few of them to see what the province.
They do have a rating, like a body rating and a sweetness and a acidity.
I tried
rating.
to. I wanted to know what the provenance of them was, so I had a little look. Yeah, that's it. Body
so this
sweetness.
is general drinking coffee. Looks like a good middle ground. It's
Yeah,
probably
I
the
bu-
one I'd go for.
I was worried that might be a bit weak though, because I always find any of those like normal, like what would be a number 3 on your normal ones, like so it's not enough for me. I like a.
See, I'm annoyed now that my only reference is Nescafe. I'm annoyed with myself now. Right, we'll do it. I'll get
Okay.
it ordered, and then I'll report back.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We'll go from there.
Excellent.
Future plans. Is there anything on your hit list of stuff that you want to do that you haven't done? Realistically, I don't mean like.
Well, I don't think I've ever really dealt in what's realistic in some ways. I think if I look at what I'm doing now, I don't think I would have thought it was realistic 10 years ago.
Seems like
in
a lot
many
of what
ways.
you end up doing there was never a plan.
No, I mean, yes and no. I've always got a plan. It's never come to fruition yet. I've always got a rough idea of where I'm heading, but what I try to do is accept that if I don't get from here to there, that's fine. But just by having the there, that I'm going to end up saying yes to some things that I wouldn't normally say yes to in an attempt to get there, that then might lead me over here. But that's fine. But having the there, I need that first as a
So
kind
you may sort of change into the maybe guy instead of the yes guy.
yeah, something along those lines.
The yes in brackets, but
I mean, these days I have to be a bit smarter about what I say yes to,
Yeah.
because otherwise I'd just burn myself out, which I've done many a time.
yeah, you don't want to be doing
In a
that.
pitch to be earning a living. Whereas these days I'm pretty solid financially, so I'm not just desperate
Yeah.
to say yes to anything that comes my way.
And you have job satisfaction.
Absolutely.
Which I don't think too many people have full job satisfaction where they actually love their job.
No,
really
and
enjoy
I
going
would
to
say
work.
I would say I do, but it's like anything. There's totally days where I can't be
Well,
bothered.
there's parts
I don't
to it
wanna
that
do
you don't enjoy,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
overall,
But overall,
if you take a step back and think,
absolutely,
I'm actually quite fortunate to be doing what I'm doing.
So next, I mean, live to your living rooms are quite a big focus at the moment.
Live to your living
We're
rooms.
kind of focused.
That's got
on
legs.
That. I'm only just back in the studio, so I feel like I'm just finishing off the last of the projects that got sidelined because of furlough and the studio being closed. And as soon as I finish that, it's back on the attention of getting people in to this.
Yeah, I'd
place.
like to see get some full bands in doing some.
Yeah, I really like.
pop stuff.
I'm also looking at kind of offering a lot more mixing, because I think I've spoken to a lot of musicians, and I think that a lot of people have maybe been doing home recording during lockdown. So I'm looking at doing a project at the moment where I've got someone in mind. I haven't asked him yet, as seems to be a theme as well. Who I know has been doing a lot of home recording, not a pro, but it's just been doing it just recently, doing it on GarageBand. They just put some stuff out, and I've got an idea for doing a little YouTube series where I'm gonna take someone's song that they've mixed themselves. And then I'm gonna do it and maybe do a little set of videos on the process, how I did it,
really
and then putting up what the two different songs sound like at the end, just to kind of show you show you what you get with someone.
So, is there any like tips for what you would suggest someone when they send you something, how it's like to get it you in the best form before so you can mix it better?
Yeah. Okay. So it's all pretty obvious stuff, but it's things that people don't do, like name your tracks. Name your tracks something that I'm going to understand.
Yeah.
So I don't want loads of audio 001.02s. Like I want vocal,
like rhythm
guitar
left,
one,
rhythm right.
Yeah, any of that. If you've got an idea about how you think you want it to sound at the end of it, like a rough mix is always helpful. But what I want is, I don't want your project file. I don't want like your Logic file rough mixed, because I'm only going to start again. What I want is the stems, so the original audios, and a bounced version of how your ideas. And I'll.
What do you mean by bounced?
So like so a stereo WAV of the final thing, as opposed to like the project.
Yeah.
Just something that I could stick on in the car or something to have a listen to, get a feel for.
Yeah, the car still the universal standard of how you listen to something.
Absolutely.
I always found that if it can't make it sound good on shitty, normal, average speakers, then forget about the big fancy ones.
Absolutely. So yeah, that's good. Some reference tracks, always good, like The Dream, what you'd like it to sound like. And they're always difficult ones to kind of explain what I mean. I don't necessarily... It might not be something that is even in the same genre as what you're aiming for. But what I want is a reference of like stuff that you think sounds good, something you
think you might want to sound a bit like.
Yeah, because that might... the things I pick up from that are like... I don't want to hear you say, all right, if you're a new metal band, right, I'm not expecting you to necessarily send me like a Deftones track because you want to sound like the Deftones and you think you're the next Deftones, right? That's kind of not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, you might send me, all right, here's an example, seeing as though we were talking grunge before. For me, it'd be the difference between sending me something off In Utero and sending me something off Nevermind, right?
Yeah.
Right? If you're sending me the Nevermind track, straight away, I'm like, right, there's a certain polished sound that you're interested in. There's a certain drum sound that you like. There's definitely a certain vocal sound that you're interested in, comparative to if you sent me something off In Utero. That's what I'm looking for. And I'm looking for... how that works with the reverb techniques. I'm looking for, do I go in and like minutely tune all your vocals? Do I not bother? Those kinds of things are kind of helpful things. And then I guess I just want permission to use or not use things at my desire. But then what I do is I'll mix. Typically, I'll mix what I think it should sound like, and I might cut a guitar part, or I might do any of those kinds of things. But I'm not unflexible. Like if you come back to me and go, I really want that in, then I'll stick it back in or I'll work it. But what I'd normally do is give you my vision first, because I think that's what you're hiring me for, really, is that. And it can be really easy with infinite tracks now available to keep adding and adding and adding. So I'll be looking at crafting a start to finish thing based on what you sent me. I might even go back to you and go, I think you need another backing vocal or another bit here. Could you try adding me that in? Or I'll do it myself and say, like, either now you do it for me or I'll keep the one I did or something. But yeah, reference is an idea of what you want it to sound like from your own rough mix, well labeled audio. And then the only other thing that's handy is like what the technicalities of how you recorded it are. So is it 16-bit or 24-bit? Is it at 48 kilohertz or 44.1? Can work that stuff out, but just knowing it is handy. It's
easy for you.
Other than that,
it's good to know.
That's it. And then let me work my magic.
Does it take a long time or does it just depend?
It really, really depends. It depends what it is. And the first one takes a lot longer.
Because you're getting all your boundaries then, aren't you? All your parameters.
Yeah,
and
stuff. Depending on what it's for, I might set up a load of presets as well.
Yeah.
So if you've got
tracks.
Exactly, if you've got like 5 tracks and you recorded them all in the same place and you did all the drums on a day and all the guitars on a day, and you're going for like an overall sound for an EP or something, then once I've done one and I've got something, I'll probably send you one and I'll get a feel for when you're happy with one, and then I'll use that to set up a bunch of presets or for other things. I reckon it takes me. I'll probably mix a track in the morning.
Okay. So you ever mix it and then like leave it, then come back to it. And
definitely, but that's all to do with
that was a big thing for me.
Frame of mind.
You can get lost. You can get lost in something.
Some things just come together quite quickly straight away. Some things, if it starts to become hard work, I try to leave it and come back to it. But honestly, there's not very many things I mix that I didn't track as well.
Right.
But I'm just thinking at the moment that there might be a lot of stuff that people have done at home. So that's kind of thinking that's a good thing to be offering a bit more of, at least saying that I'm open to doing. But I don't do. It's not something I've done a lot of previously. Mostly it's stuff I've tracked.
Right.
Before.
What other equipment have you got in house?
This is where I would say we're a little bit lacking. So we don't have like a bunch of amazing guitars or like loads of great amps or anything like that, like some studios do. We've got some amps, but nothing amazing really. I'd tell people to bring their own if they've got something.
Okay, yeah.
I've got a load of great amps, mods like plugins. But yeah, we've
got a drum kit.
We've got a really decent drum kit. Actually, got a really decent.
I wasn't sure if that was belonged to here, but
it kind of does. It actually belongs to a friend of mine, and it's his second drum kit. He's a pro drummer.
Right.
We should give him a shout out, really, shouldn't we? His name's Evan Carson.
Okay.
He's got a solo album as a percussionist that's kind of prog. It's like a prog rock / folk album.
Evan Carson.
Evan Carson. His name. The album's called Okupinski. He works with a Russian prog band who I've started saying this and I can't remember what they're called, which is great, isn't it? I Am the Morning. They're called I Am the Morning. So it's a little shout out for Evan. We've got his second drum kit here at the moment, just on like permanent loan while we store it for him because he's not got space for his main gigging drum kit and that second one. That's a really lovely Gretsch.
I heard you playing it, or I heard you playing back it last time we were here.
Yeah,
it just sounded really good.
Yeah, it's a cracking kit. It's really good. Great snare.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got that. I mean, I'd always tell people to bring their own, but then there is an option to then, once you hear, if a lot of small bands anyway, they might not have greatly tuned drums or anything on them, and like you can lose if you're paying to be here for 2 days, right? We could lose 7 hours getting your drum kit right. Yeah. So like in some ways you might just want to use mine. Yeah. Really depends on what your kit's like before you get here.
So some drummers already know, like they've done it before, so it shouldn't take them too long. But if you've got someone brand new, like, I'll just use that kit.
Yeah. And sometimes you might want to just try a couple of things out. You might want to switch between 2 different kick drums for songs as well. There's always that. Yeah. So we have got the wherewithal to do that with drums. But yeah, we've not. That's the only thing that I feel like we're missing is. I mean, I've got my own instruments that I'm happy to bring in as well. So I've got a decent. I've got a Fender American Jazz and Telly and a handmade filed guitar who are based in Penrith. I don't know if you know them, the guy who makes filed guitars. So I've got my custom filed and stuff, so I've got all those kind of things.
Cool. Oh well, man, it's been fascinating talking to you. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, it is. It's weird. It's hard. Do you know what, talking about yourself for ages is really strange.
But I remember having this conversation with you about doing this when we first met you in like March.
Yeah.
And everything the doors just shut on the world, basically.
Pretty much, and then what I've done since then is totally different. So the conversation then will have been totally different to what it is now.
So have Haystack Records got anything coming out, or have just had out?
Just had out last week, actually, yeah. Last Friday, we put out an album by a band called The Teacups, which is an a cappella vocal album of traditional, a mix of traditional and self-penned folk stuff. They just did a launch gig last night on Live to Your Living Room for that, and we've been doing these listen along YouTube video things where we've listened to some of their previous albums and discuss. Well, the way we've been billing it is like when you used to buy DVDs and you get like the director's commentary one.
Talking over it.
This is like the musician's equivalent of the director's commentary. So we play the album and then we all talk over it. They talk about how they arrange the song. I talk about some of the production techniques, the mixing, that kind of thing.
Did you do a podcast like that?
So we did them as YouTube videos, but then I've made the audio available as a podcast, which is
that isn't the one that we did recently with the
it's that one. Yeah.
Or Wade and is it Wade? No, the two guys.
Oh no, that's a different one. So Ward.
Technically, you're a podcaster as well, aren't you?
Not really. That was a guest on there. The Ward and Parker podcast. Yes. Is that the one that you said that you listened to?
Yeah, I listened to it. It was really good.
So that's not the one, and that's not the one I was asking you about Anchor for. That
is it not?
No,
right,
no.
Okay, right. Okay.
So that was just so my Warden Parker. You'll know
that came out not long after that. So I
it did.
that was
it did, but that was just coincidence. I
Okay,
recorded
right,
that with him like weeks ago, back in the summer. You'll know John Parker. He was the bass player in Nizlopi. Do you remember the JCB song?
I remember listening to one of the
Yeah.
My JCB.
Yeah. So John was the bass player in them. Warden Parker. Yeah, they've got like. They're a duo and they just started doing their own podcast.
It's a good podcast, actually. They've got,
they're pretty neat.
Decent, like the audio quality is really good on it.
Yeah, they're really nice guys. So yeah, and then I did these listen-alongs. That's what I was asking you about Anchor for.
Right.
Because all I've done is taken the audio from the videos, essentially, and just... Because they're quite long. They're like the first one for their... We've done them for their 3 albums as like a retrospective. Yeah. So, because this is their last ever album, the one that's just come out.
Yeah.
So we did, as a build up to that, we did their first album, which is a short album. That was an hour and a half of a podcast. And then we did the second album, that's 2 hours of a podcast.
Yeah.
And then the third album, which is 19 tracks. Some of them are dead short. So it's like a 40-minute playing album. There's 19 tracks. But we talked for like 3 hours about that. So I thought, if we make this as just a premiered YouTube video, there's a good chance their figures are going to drop off after an hour and a half. So I've just been making them available as a podcast so people can dip in and out of them if they want to as well.
Yeah, because I wouldn't normally recommend Anchor.
Yeah. It's just literally
because
them
we're doing
3.
it as like a one-off type.
It's
thing.
like them
It's
3.
perfect.
It's not a series
and you can do
or anything
it like that.
Yeah, exactly. So we just did them 3, and I didn't need to record it. I had the audio already. I just took it off the video.
It worked.
It's out there, and it's been really good. Yeah.
You could probably do a podcast.
I had talked to my friends about doing a political podcast, actually.
Oh, I wouldn't be. Don't ask me to be on that
one. Just because we've got a WhatsApp group where a few of us that are into it. I've tried to avoid it too much. You'll be glad to know that I try to not be too spouty about it. But we're all from different sides of the political spectrum.
Okay.
Like my friends from school that I grew up with, and I'd say within the WhatsApp group. There's someone from pretty much every angle you could think of, bar the extremes.
Yeah. It all depends on the person, because you should be able to be on the opposite side.
Well, we chat all the time. I would say
we
chat every day on what's going on in the news, pretty much, just in like a WhatsApp thing. So I was saying, when the last election came round, I was like, guys, we should totally do a podcast. Like, it would be just normal people talk politics. It'd be great. We'd all meet up once a week, have a beer, and like just have the WhatsApp conversation. But in person, it'd be really good. And they're all like, oh, I don't know if I want people at work knowing about it. And like, they're all just worried about real jobs. People with real jobs and careers.
Don't use your real name on it then. No one would know.
So I haven't been able to persuade them on it yet. Actually,
is that a subject you would feel comfortable doing then?
I'd love to do that. Yeah.
Interesting.
I just felt it would be like nice to hear normal people talk about politics with different opinions. But
accepting each other
exactly,
not,
and just playing it out. And
it's not about who's right or wrong.
Yeah, exactly, and seeing where we get. Where rather than, because I was getting irritated that so much of what's out there politics wise is either highly edited to really show one side of it, or it's like classic like aggressive journalism where it's really just about tripping someone up, and I think. Half the problem with politics in this country at the moment is everyone is sick of that, yet the people who are out there doing it aren't really paying any attention to that everybody else is sick of that, and they're still just ploughing on with it regardless. It just creates a void between people in politics and the rest of the country, and I was thinking it'd be more interesting to have real people have a conversation about it. This is
part of why I like podcasts, because you get someone on and there's plenty of time. And
they're quite a good leveler, aren't they? It's not about
just
being
tell
at the top
story.
of an industry or
there's
any
no
of those
rush.
Things. Yeah,
you come on and you've tell your full story, because you've probably never done this before, have you? Like that?
No, and funnily enough, I did that Warden Parker thing. That's the only other time anything that's come across. But I've never done long radio. I've done like the odd, like a 5-minute snippet, don't you?
But I think that's part of the popularity of it. It's just normal, like you said, normal people, a normal conversation with no constraints. There's no like, oh, we're just going to go to an advert break now.
Yeah, and I think there's also
we've reached 10 minutes. We've got to stop now.
And there's no like. Obviously, you're getting people on who have got a product, and I guess we are all selling something a little bit, but there's no like media stream. There's no like I'm not holding the album that's next coming out or whatever, and like trying to bring it back to that all the time. You can allow the conversation to go in the direction that the conversation goes. I think that's interesting.
If you're doing it on like even like radio, you'd be on for like 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and then we go to play some songs. And you're
Yeah.
sitting there. I've done it myself. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
on Radio Cumbria, and you're sitting there, like, you're talking to them, and like, oh, we'll come back, and then they ask you a question, you answer it,
Yeah.
and then they're doing something else. It's like it's not really natural.
No, and I think when you do it with people like that as well, and this is no disrespect to any of them, but they're also doing all the other things that radio people do at the same time, like queuing up the next track, looking at the next question.
Sometimes when they like ask you a question and you're answering it, this person's not listening to what I'm saying.
Exactly.
You just start like dropping F-bombs and stuff, and they're not even listening. But that's just, and you got a lot of radio people getting into podcasts now, and I even see it with like some of the radio stations when they put out their podcasts, they keep putting the radio ideas. You're listening to whatever FM. Like, no one's joining halfway through. This person's downloaded this. They know what they're listening to. You don't need to keep reminding them. It's not radio.
They've not
do it all the time.
They've not flicked over to it by accident.
Like even like a highlight show that, like, I listen to the Jason Manford podcast, which is on Absolute Radio, and it's brilliant. I don't listen to the show because it's in the morning, so I listen to the podcast, which is just the talking. But when they get to the end, they go, "You're listening to Jason Manford on Absolute Radio," and they go, "So today we've been talking about." It's like they could have just gone into the one bit, and I know what I'm listening to. I don't need reminders of what I'm listening to.
Were you a big podcast listener before you decided to do it? Was that the route in where you're like listening to tons and then?
Yeah, Joe Rogan, 2010.
Yeah.
That's when I discovered, because those kind of conversations you were not hearing anywhere else. Like back then, he was doing exactly what he's doing now back then, just 10 years ago. And I was just thinking, these conversations more people need to have these conversations.
It's interesting because I think there's been a sudden rise quite recently, and like I think people. I know podcasts have been around a long time, like you say,
since 2004.
But I think I've not heard people talk about them in the same way as I have in the last couple of years. Like everyone listens to has got a podcast.
It's because it's got a bit more mainstream. You've got celebrities doing it now. Some of them terribly. Like you get even who was it? Karen Brady did one for a while, and I liked the concept of it. She had some good guests, but she just stuck one of those Blue Yeti microphones in the middle of the table.
I hate that shit.
And it's like people like talking like this. Like, people can't really hear me until I come back to the microphone. But like it's really echoey, and it's just like you've had some really bad advice there on how to do a podcast.
I've heard you're right. Then I've heard some that are really shoddily done.
Like when you consider who's making it, I can't believe you've allowed this.
What are your big hitters? How many podcasts do you listen to? Sorry, I don't want to turn the tables here, but I'm interested.
I've had a click clutter out, but I'm now only subscribed to 130 podcasts.
That's pretty. How many do you reckon you listen to in a week?
This is the thing. I can probably in a week. I do a lot of driving, so I can listen to a fair few, but it's probably only about 6 or 7 a week.
You do a lot of driving, yeah.
So, but even then, it's like I have to really read the description on their show notes about who their guest is and what they're talking about, because I'm like, do I commit to this one? Because I've only got space for about 5 or 6 every week.
Yeah.
And they're all putting new ones, so it depends on who their guest is, what the subject is, what they're talking about. So it's really a narrow window, but I keep subscribing to more and more, but I'm like, I haven't got time to listen to them all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am a podcast addict, and the app that I use is called Podcast Addict.
Right, okay.
So, but yeah, since podcasts are now on Spotify as well, I'm finding that I'm spending less time listening to music.
I was going to say, do you think, does it impact on your music listening?
Which is why Spotify have given Joe Rogan £100 million to only be on Spotify.
Yeah.
Because the more people are listening to podcasts, they don't have to pay royalties on podcasts. So if they're not listening to music, they don't have to pay out royalties.
They barely pay royalties on music.
Yeah, well, it has gone up slightly.
Yeah.
And it should go up more, but yeah, they don't have to. I can see why. Fair play to. I don't know if it'll work. Joe Rogan's a bit like an experiment with it.
Yeah, okay.
Because technically people are saying he's not a podcaster because it's really boring, but you need an RSS feed,
right?
Which is what your ID of your. But you don't on Spotify. They don't.
Didn't know any of this until about 2 weeks ago when I was looking into it. But I'm on here.
Yeah. So like your podcast host gives your show a podcast an RSS feed, which then goes to iTunes and which goes to all the directories.
Yeah.
But with Spotify, you just upload an MP3 file and people just listen to it from there.
Right.
So technically, people say he's not a podcaster anymore. It's just hosts a show on Spotify.
Right.
Not that he's going to give a shit.
Yeah,
he's just been given £100 million.
Yeah.
No, $100 million to exclusively be on Spotify. So now he's on both everywhere and on Spotify. And I think in December he'll go even the YouTube stuff.
Right.
And Spotify have now started doing videos.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'll be able to. His is already like that. It's already set up so you can listen to the audio and you can watch the video if you want.
Right.
Eventually, they'll open up that up to everyone. So these videos will be on Spotify as well. So for us as podcasters, it's great. Yeah. But it's really interesting to see where it's going to go.
I'll admit, I've never been a huge podcast listener. But when you first started showing your interest here, that it made me go, maybe I should listen to some podcasts. And I still don't listen to tons, but
you've got to have the time. It's a lifestyle thing. It's got to be able to fit into your lifestyle.
I think
the main places are people walking the dog at the gym, driving, those kind of places.
I think what the thing was, I listened to a lot of audiobooks, so it's already I do.
You're
kind
of there.
Yeah, and I did listen to a lot of radio programs on catch up. So I'd be listening to a lot of BBC radio on catch up. So I wasn't like anti the idea. I just never really got into it as a thing. So I'm kind of just at the beginning of my podcast journey.
Good.
You're one of my only subscribed podcasts, Marc. So.
Nice. We'll take that. But it's like I say, the type of conversations that you hear on them, you don't get on like mainstream. Like when celebrities go on chat shows and stuff like that, it's pretty formulaic.
It's very, isn't it? And the questions are all the same. You can tell, that they've done about 15 of them that day or that week or whatever, having the same conversations about whatever new film or album or whatever it is.
It's like, could go on, tell a funny story, promote whatever you're promoting, tell another funny story, off you go. But I've noticed more and more celebrities are doing more and more podcasts. Because they see a day of like, they've got like GMTV, they've got BBC, but then they've got a podcast. Like, I'm going to go on that. Where they can like simple things like being able to swear. Or go off topic. It don't matter.
Absolutely.
It's fine. And, there's nothing less off limits. I think that, if you were doing, you'd jump at the chance of doing that if you were doing the same stuff every day.
Absolutely.
You've seen those train wreck interviews where certain interviews are just like, that's one question, they go, no.
Yeah.
Can you just imagine what that
it
would
must
be like?
Especially,
for the interviewer.
Especially like film stars and stuff who are like all over the world and on very little sleep, knackered most of the time doing press.
I've seen a lot of people where it's like they think their first question is like really original and no one's ever asked it before, but really like, you're the fourth person to ask that question today.
Yeah.
He's like, oh.
Yeah,
you have thick skin for that.
Yeah, I don't think I could hack it.
Some actors, you just catch them on a bad day.
Yeah.
Just like, I can't remember who it was. There was one in particular. I can't remember it, but he was. I thought he was going to get up and punch him. This interview, like it was about. I think it was a woman, and she remained upbeat the whole time.
Yeah.
She never let it get to her, and then she just left. She probably cried in the toilet when she got out. But that's, you don't get that on podcasting.
Not at all. No, it's good. I'm kind of just getting into it.
So how long have we done?
2 hours.
Boom. There you go.
Great.
Like
Lovely.
Thanks for joining us, man.
My absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for asking me and just letting me waffle on about.
It's fine.
Craft.
We'll definitely do it again down the line when we've.
Yeah.
Let's revisit this like in a year's time.
Yeah, and see where the studio's at, and hopefully the world's in a different place.
Yeah, and talk about coffee.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that.
All right. Cheers, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get a picture of you before you go.
Lovely. Yeah, cool.
I forgot to get a picture of Ryan last time.